A broken desert island. While Yulo was slightly distracted. Golden Lion Shiki swings Sakuraju and Deadwood again. Whoosh. 2 more black sword energies shot out. While Yulo's thoughts were running, Observation Haki kept paying attention to Shiki. He quickly waved the black sword and slashed out 4 sword energy in succession. But even the 4 sword auras only offset 1 black sword aura. Another black sword energy came flying forward as usual. Shave. Yulo chose to dodge, and in the lightning flash, he activated the 6 types of physical skills. He disappeared instantly, and the black sword energy whizzed past. Following the ravine on the sea, it disappeared from sight. Yulo, who kept using the 6 forms, quickly approached Shiki. His speed is very fast, but Shiki's observation haki can also detect Yulo's position. Shiki also activates the lion fruit ability and moves close to the ground. The waving Sakura 10 in the dead wood emitted black light, like a group of demons dancing wildly. Countless slashes of sword energy burst towards Yulo's position. Jia ha ha ha, boy Yulo, how do you feel? Shiki looked at Yulo, who had been dodging, and laughed proudly. Did you see that Shiki, I'm not bad at all? Just wait and be my vice captain. Shiki, I didn't say that, that's all. Shiki's proud look made Yulo couldn't help but challenge him. I really thought that if I showed my arms and sex, I wouldn't be able to do anything to you Shiki. Even though Shiki's defense and attack power have increased a lot. If Yulo wants to deal with it calmly, there are definitely ways. I just wanted to test how far Shiki's armament was exposed. What's more, releasing armament haki with such full force consumes a lot of physical strength and haki. I don't know how long I can hold on, but I started to scream here. Dragon hunting. As soon as he finished speaking, Yulo ignored the countless sword energy attacks. He jumped into the air and struck hard with the black knife in his hand. The sharp sword energy burst out and turned into a ferocious black dragon, roaring and biting Shiki below. The black dragon's momentum was like breaking bamboo, and several black sword energies were crushed directly on the way. This move is indeed good, but it's a pity that it's still a bit unsightly. Shiki said slightly solemnly, bending his calves, stamping his feet hard, and disappeared from the place. This move was not as good as his black haki slash, but he was not prepared to withstand it. Shiki knew in his heart that he couldn't last long in this state. The top priority is to defeat Yulo as quickly as possible. Yulo in midair was preparing to dodge the overwhelming black haki slashes. Suddenly, it was discovered that Shiki's figure was missing. You didn't choose to bear it. Yulo was a little surprised. This was not in line with Shiki's style. The very next moment, his observation haki captured. Shiki is approaching him quickly. In an instant, Yulo appeared above him. Jia ha ha ha, eat me twice. With a sinister smile on his face, Shiki struck Yulo on the head with the Sakura 10 and dead wood in his hand. Fortunately, Yulo had already noticed it and responded quickly. The black sword is held horizontally above the head, and the blade is covered by armament haki. Boom. Boom. Shiki's weapon color is exposed, bursting out with huge impact. It knocked Yulo down and hit the ground. The already broken land exploded again, sinking severely. The impact created a cloud of sand and dust, obscuring Yulo's figure. Shiki's attack made some of the pirates who supported him cheer. Well done, Shiki-sama. Let me tell you, Shiki-sama is not bad. Master Yulo is still too young. These people felt unconvinced about Shiki's injury just now. Now when they see Yulo being shot down, they all clamor to clear Shiki's name. Just then, the dust dispersed. Yulo was revealed, covered in a jet black armament haki. He wasn't injured, he was simply knocked down. Of course there were no injuries, thanks to armament haki. Look, Master Yulo is okay. What's wrong with being young? Being young doesn't hurt. As expected of Master Yulo, the pirates who supported Yulo saw this and immediately fought back. The pirates who supported Shiki gritted their teeth every word. Rocks, Newgate and others watched quietly. Yulo always brings surprises to people. No one knows if he is still hiding. Therefore, no one speaks nonsense about Yulo's strength. This weapon color is really good. It seems that you have completely mastered it. Yulo looked at Shiki floating in midair and said calmly. From the series of offensives just now, he understood what he wanted to know. Exposing the weapon color is a kind of application technique, which requires subtle and skillful control of haki. Although it can be turned into substantial attack and defense. However, there is a prerequisite restriction. That is, the intensity of armament haki will not change. It cannot hit an attack that exceeds its own haki strength. It is also unable to defend against attacks that exceed its own haki strength. Since Yulo can break open, Shiki hockey's hardening and winding. Then add an external release, and you can still break it open. It just doubled the difficulty, and only revealed one more swordsmanship move. Jia ha ha ha, of course. Why, boy Yulo, if you want to learn. Shiki felt that Yulo's words were acknowledging himself. He immediately thought of using this to seduce Yulo. Shiki, you are thinking too much. I was thinking about how to defeat you. Before Shiki finished speaking, he was interrupted by Yulo's voice. Could it be that you have a special trick? He was not angry, but was slightly stunned. Immediately, my mind moved, and I started to look forward to it. Yulo never lacks surprises. There are seemingly endless moves in the battle, which will dazzle you. That divine speed sword drawing technique broke through his armor. Thinking about it now, I still feel scared. This move is my strongest swordsmanship at present. Once I use it, I can't stop it. Shiki, be prepared. This is my first time to use it too. Whether you survive or not depends on you. Yulo's eyes were deep, his expression was indifferent, and his aura was surging. While he was practicing the swordsmanship in encyclopedia, he also often studied on his own. In a short period of time, although he did not create any moves of his own. However, he mastered one sword move thoroughly and then integrated what he had learned. A comprehensive move that focuses on swordsmanship and fire, supplemented by physical skills and hockey, has been modified. This move requires exquisite cooperation among the four. Its attack range, speed, and power are several times stronger than the divine speed and sword drawing technique. The only drawback is that it takes a lot of energy. After all, it is a comprehensive skill released together with swordsmanship, fire, taijutsu and hockey. Yulo acted very seriously and spoke in a solemn tone. Shiki's pupils shrank when he heard this, and he couldn't help but become nervous. Shiki has no doubts about Yulo's strongest move. At this point in the battle, no one would make such a joke. Jia ha ha ha, boy Yulo, I'm honored. In that case, let's decide the outcome with one move. Shiki's muscles all over his body tensed up, and Sakura Ten and Kuseki's grip tightened. He took a deep breath and armament hockey exploded with all his strength. Various abilities are always ready, and the momentum has been upgraded to ultimate. Yulo stood there holding the black knife. Boom. Suddenly, the fire in Qinglian's heart burned, and flames rose up all over her body. Yulo's calf suddenly exerted force, and the ground where it was located exploded. The land was sunken, Yulo stood motionless, and cracks spread in all directions. The raging Qinglian earth core fire erupted from Yulo's feet and bombarded the ground. Suddenly, the sky shook and the desert island began to tremble. Qinglian's inner core fire continued to destroy deeply, causing the cracks to expand rapidly and spread throughout the desert island. At this time, wisps of green fire escaped from the cracks. Click. 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 In an instant, the dilapidated desert island became disintegrated and fragmented. Look, the entire island is shattered. This desert island is probably going to sink. The desert island has been destroyed, and the winner has not yet been determined. After experiencing many shocks, the pirates in the distance have become accustomed to it. Looking at the scene of the desert island collapsing, he said with emotion one after another. Just when everyone thought the desert island was about to sink, the surrounding seawater suddenly boiled, and a large amount of steam floated up. Countless fish kept jumping out of the water, scrambling to escape here. What's going on? It's so hot. The seawater is already boiling. The heat steamed up and hit Tinling Guy directly from under the feet. It makes all the pirates feel like they are in a steamer. Look. Suddenly, someone exclaimed. In the seawater around the desert island, a huge cyan shadow broke through the waves. Huge waves were set off, and the sea suddenly surged. The pirate ships moored around were all picked up by the huge waves and pushed back 100 meters. The broken desert island that was supposed to sink into the sea was now held up by a huge green lotus. 36 lotus leaves slowly closed together, enveloping the entire ruins of the desert island. This is too spectacular. The pirates were dumbfounded and stammered. This fruit's ability is truly terrifying. Silver Axe looked serious and said in a deep voice. Gu la la la, it must be well developed by Yulo. Newgate laughed, and even he was a little shocked. Chingo can directly seal off a small island, and its ability to develop is quite terrifying. Inside Qinglian, there are rugged rocks. Seeing this battle, Shiki felt a little confused. Even when he unleashes armament hockey with all his strength, you can also feel a suffocating temperature. This Yulo boy doesn't really intend to kill himself. Shiki looked at Yulo with a calm expression in horror. The terrifying sense of oppression made him take 2 steps back subconsciously. But then, he lowered his head in disbelief and glanced at his legs. Just a second ago, he actually felt a hint of fear. I think Yulo came here to prevent me from escaping. Shiki smiled bitterly and shook his head mockingly. Whether it is an instinctive reaction or a psychological effect, he must not sit still and wait for death. Shiki's eyes became determined and he immediately launched an attack stance. A large number of gravel and soil scattered around him rose into the air and gathered together. Dozens of majestic giant lions quickly formed. These lions are densely packed and guard Golden Lion Shiki. Yulo looked at this scene and suddenly raised the corner of his mouth. The great swordsman's sharp sword soared into the sky, and the black knife in his hand buzzed violently, and there was a resonance between the two. The jet-black blade is hardened and entangled with armament, the sword energy condenses crazily, and the green lotus earth core fire adheres to it. The four overlapped each other, and their power surged, becoming more powerful than ever before. Take the move. Yulo's body trembled and his voice fell. The razor of the 6 styles was exploded with all its strength, and the figure disappeared in an instant. So fast. Shiki, who was concentrating in the distance, had hairs all over his body and his pupils shrank sharply. In an instant, he was all fired up to capture Yulo's figure. It's the same razor, but this time it's different from before. There were still traces of Yulo's razor before, and the figure would draw a trajectory in the air. But this time, his speed was as fast as ultimate, and his control of the airflow was meticulous, leaving no trace at all. Shiki fully realized Yulo's movements. Go. Shiki shouted and waved the Sakura Juku in his hand. Ho! Roar! Roar! Dozens of giant lions roared and pounced on the fast-moving Yulo. With these lions, of course there is no way to stop Yulo. Yulo smashed all the lions into pieces just by using the airflow generated by friction with the air. Of course Shiki understands this, this is just a way to kill Yulo. Lion, Thousand Slice Valley. The next moment, he drew his sword, his arms dancing like a group of demons. Countless black sword energies covered the sky and blocked the sun, instantly blocking Yulo's trajectory. Ha 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 ha, Shiki, welcome my killing move, Qinglian sword song. Looking at Shiki close at hand, Yulo laughed. The whole person turned into a blue sword light, and the sword drawing technique appeared at a very fast speed. The dense black sword energy was directly penetrated by Yulo's blow. It shoots towards Shiki with a powerful blast. Display your armed colors. Shiki's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly used the external release technique to build an invisible defensive wall around his body. A clang. The green sword light passed through, and a crisp collision sounded. Shiki couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw that the defensive wall was only slightly shaken. However, the next moment, he was greeted by an increasingly sharp sword light. Clang. 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 The sound of Jin-Ji was endless, and the green sword light continued to pass through Shiki. The speed is getting faster, the power is getting stronger, and the sword energy is getting sharper. Ah! Shiki roared and unleashed all his defenses. He didn't expect that what he just did was just the first sword. Shiki now can only do passive defense. Facing the cyan sword light, he could take 2 or 3 moves. But now, it's so fast that Shiki can't react. He was afraid that he would be stabbed by the next cyan sword light as soon as he received 2 or 3 swords. Damn it! Shiki stood there with a gloomy face. He discovered that Armament Hockey's external defense wall was on the verge of collapse. And that cyan sword light became faster and faster, more ruthless and accurate. Crack, click, click. Finally, 18 rays of sword light flashed through, and the defensive wall shattered. What kind of swordsmanship is this? Shiki's expression suddenly changed, and he secretly said something bad. The combined power of these 18 sword lights. Beyond the limits of what his armament hockey could defend. Now his weapon was released, but the green sword light continued. Shiki made a move and was about to rearm and release his color. The 19th ray of sword light struck, and it cut across his arm with a clang. How could Yulo let Shiki use his weapon color again? Hiss! Shiki groaned in pain, and his movement was interrupted by sword light. The weapon was hardened and entangled, and it was cut directly, and a scar appeared on the arm. Dang! 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 The cyan sword light slashed one after another, giving Shiki no chance to react. In an instant, several sword marks appeared on his body. This is about to determine the winner. Alas, Shiki-sama is going to lose. Master Yulo is too pervert. The people watching the battle on the sea were so shocked that their expressions changed drastically. They all expressed their exclamations and emotions. Yulo was nowhere to be seen in their sights. All that could be seen clearly was countless green sword lights passing by. Shiki became covered in bruises in the blink of an eye. What kind of move was it that left Master Shiki defenseless? The deserted island in the distance was wrapped in green lotus, but the sharp sword intent was coming towards him. Even though they were far apart, it still made their scalps tingle and the hairs on their bodies stand up in fear. The green sword light instantly slashed 36 swords, and Yulo's figure appeared in the air. Shiki gasped for air, scars all over his body. The ticking sounds overlapped, and blood continued to fall. Every wound is comparable to the scars on the chest caused by the sword-drawing technique. These dozen wounds were not deep, and they only had some impact on Shiki. The key thing is that the amount of bleeding is terrible, coupled with the long-term full release of the armed color. This caused Shiki's physical strength to decrease rapidly. Shiki, the last sword. Yulo in the air looked stern and his voice was extremely calm. Holding the black knife tightly in both hands, he raised it high. The next moment, the huge green lotus suddenly bloomed, and 36 lotus leaves burst into flames. It turned into streams of green flowing fire and gathered on the black blade. The hardening and entanglement of armament hockey, coupled with the lingering of Qinglian's inner fire. The black knife exudes shocking murderous intent. The air nearby screamed, as if it had encountered something terrible. Shiki couldn't help but take a step back, looking at the black knife in horror. The energy emanating from it made him flinch. It feels like my soul is trembling. It's nonsense, it's really nonsense. Rock's face darkened. He felt a strong murderous intention from Yulo's black knife. It was just a duel, how could it turn into a battle of life and death? If Yulo were to kill him with this knife, he would be able to kill him. In Shiki's current state, even if he doesn't die, he will still be seriously injured. If this is the case, it will seriously affect his plan. Shiki is an indispensable member of Marine's next revenge operation. Even if all the ordinary crew members died, something would definitely happen to Shiki. What's more, Shiki is Rock's pirates' top combat force. Rock's ultimate goal is to overthrow the world government. What we need most is people like Shiki. If something happens to Shiki, his chances of winning will inevitably decrease. Rox won't let that happen. It seems that he has to take action after all. Rox stared at Yulo solemnly. This Yulo is truly a monster. Even Rox senses a hint of threat from the black knife. Let me end this fight. Rox took a step forward, disappeared from the bow of the ship, and rushed straight to the desert island. Even Newgate's expression changed drastically. He didn't expect it to develop like this. Seeing Rox rushing out, he hurriedly followed him. Yulo held the green fire and black sword high, exuding an aura that would destroy the world. At this moment, his face was also slightly pale, and his steady breathing became heavy. The previous huge green lotus and 36 paths sword light were combined with this terrifying sword. Yulo's condition is almost the same as Shiki's, and his physical exertion is approaching the limit. If this sword cannot defeat Shiki, it will only end in a draw. But Yulo firmly believes that everything will disappear with this knife. Jia ha ha ha. The wild laughter sounded. Shiki was ready to fight to the death. Countless huge lions condensed again, and the Sakura 10 and dead wood arms were hardened and entangled, except that their bodies were not covered with armament hockey. He doesn't have much stamina left, and if he is covered with hockey, the power of the attack will be weakened. The next moment, the two of them took action at the same time. Yulo's black sword slashed down, drawing a blue sword energy across the sky. Shiki slashed out two cross-shaped black sword energy and soared into the sky, followed by the roaring lion. At this time, the space between heaven and earth and above the sea seemed to have solidified. In the eyes of everyone, Yulo and Shiki seemed to disappear. All that's left are two ultimate pure attacks. The cyan sword energy collided with the black sword energy. In an instant, it was destroyed. Shiki looked at this scene, feeling a little decadent. He probably knew the power of this sword. Those lions alone cannot resist it, and they will probably dissipate in an instant. Besides, with his current physical strength and the speed he could react, he couldn't dodge this green sword energy. At this time, a lightning-like figure passed by. A man with an afro appeared in front of the green sword energy. The aura it exudes is like an endless abyss. It swallowed up all the auras and filled the entire battlefield. Rock's hands covered armament hockey and pushed forward slightly. Suddenly, the green sword energy stopped, as if there was an invisible wall in front of it. The cyan sword energy was blocked by Rock's armed color, but it still broke through crazily. Rox narrowed his eyes slightly and shook his hands hard. An invisible impact force exploded, sending the green sword energy flying out. Immediately afterwards, another burly figure appeared behind Rox in an instant. The fist was wrapped in a white airball, and he smashed it into the air in front of him. Click. Click. The air cracked and the power of vibration exploded. Countless lions were blown apart by the shock. A large number of land fragments fell, and 4 people stood on floating objects on the sea. You two guys are really crazy. Rox glanced at the two of them with a relaxed expression and said in a low tone. Captain Rox. Yulo looked at Rox inexplicably and then reacted. Rox took action at this time, making it clear that he didn't want anything to happen to Shiki. Come to think of it, Rox treats ordinary crew members as cannon fodder. Only these cadres can get his attention. Yulo's eyes narrowed, secretly surprised. He was able to take the sword easily. Rox's strength exceeded his expectations. How come? Shiki looked at Rox in horror and muttered to himself. His weapons were hardened, entangled, and released, all of which were broken by Yulo's ultimate move. Rox, on the other hand, can easily block or even bounce away by just relying on his outward release. How powerful is this? Even Newgate, who came together, had shock in his eyes. This was a little different from what he thought. It was too easy. It was so easy that it seemed like a casual blow, and it seemed like nothing happened. Huh. 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 After severe mood swings, a feeling of exhaustion and weakness attacks. Yulo suddenly knelt on one knee, supported his body with a black knife, and gasped for air. Shiki was even more serious. He was bleeding a lot, making him dizzy and almost fainted. Fortunately, Newgate had quick eyesight and stepped forward to help Shiki. Shiki noticed Newgate's aura and gritted his teeth. Then he forcibly raised his spirits and shook off Newgate's hand. Gu la la la, Shiki, you guys really want to save face and suffer the consequences. Newgate didn't force himself upon seeing this, he just laughed and said something insulting. Snort. Shiki snorted coldly, managed to steady himself, and began to regain his strength. On the other side, Yulo slowly stood up. What a terrifying talent and strength. It won't take more than a few years to catch up with me. Rox looked at Yulo in front of him with satisfaction. A young man with a terrifying talent that could be called a monster. Even his talent is not as good as Yulo's. Rox is a little lucky, Yulo is a pirate. If it were from the marine camp, it would probably cause him a lot of trouble. Even now, he can still feel the faint pain in his hands behind his back. After hearing Rox's words, before Yulo could speak, Shiki's voice came over. Captain Rox is right, you have surpassed me now. Boy Yulo, I lost this battle. Shiki walked over slowly, with a disappointed expression on his face, and said with emotion. After all, he really wanted Yulo to be his first officer. But now it seems that the dream has come to nothing. However, he was convinced of Yulo's strength and had no complaints. But for Rox and Newgate who broke in at the last moment. He may be lying down now rather than standing. Shiki, you're not bad at all, you actually mastered the weapon color release. Yulo looked at Shiki's disappointed expression and mentioned Shiki's progress aloud. Sure enough, when Newgate heard it, he immediately burst out laughing. Gu la la la, Shiki, I didn't expect that. You actually mastered the weaponry so quickly. While Newgate spoke, he patted Shiki on the shoulder. This shot was so good that it almost made Shiki kneel down. Newgate, lousy is no worse than you. Shiki was so angry that he gritted his teeth, and his eyes wanted to blow Newgate's head off. When Newgate heard this, he pretended not to hear and said nothing. Mainly because Shiki looked miserable, and he really couldn't bear to hit Shiki anymore. Okay. Yulo has a good rest, and Shiki recovers from his injuries as soon as possible. Retaliation against Marine will begin in 2 months. Rox stared at Shiki, then glanced at everyone, and said in a deep voice. As soon as these words came out, Yulo, Shiki, and Newgate couldn't help but become serious. What about the mole? Newgate looked at Rox and suddenly asked. Even Yulo and Shiki pricked up their ears. Originally, if Rox didn't mention some things, they wouldn't ask. But now, Rox takes the initiative and it becomes natural for them to ask. Don't worry about that, everything is under my control. Rox stared at the sea and left first after speaking. The 3 of them looked at each other and followed each other one after another. Rox did not hold a cadre meeting, but instead took the opportunity to tell the 3 people alone. It was obvious that they believed the 3 of them, and the mole was not among them. It also prepares them for future actions. Yulo's mind was spinning. Judging from the current situation, the friction between Rox pirate and naval headquarters was frequent and intense. I think it's not far from the Battle of the Valley of Gods in the anime. Before that, let alone surpass Rox, at least have the strength to rival Rox. As for the marine mole, he didn't care at all. At that time, it will just be a matter of Chinglian sword song. All the pirates who were watching the battle returned to Beehive Island one after another. Rumors spread throughout the island about this battle between Yulo and Shiki. It was just a fight that destroyed an island. Now in that sea area, this desert island has disappeared. The battle was seared in their memories. John, Ochaku, Silver Axe, Kaido, Linlin, etc., have nothing to say about it. They all saw Yulo's strength with the divine speed and sword-drawing technique in the Qinglian sword song. Especially Ochaku and Kaido, they feel deeply powerless every time they see Yulo on the island. The client, Yulo, fell asleep after returning. It wasn't until the next morning that I woke up feeling physically and mentally comfortable. Ding. The mission was successfully checked in. Congratulations to host for receiving the mission reward. Advanced Armament Hockey. Armament Hockey is released. The task reward has been automatically given to the host. As soon as Yulo opened his eyes, he heard the system prompt. Immediately, I felt that the quantity and intensity of armament hockey in my body had been greatly improved. The technique of using the weapon's color outwardly is like muscle memory integrated into the body. The problem that had puzzled him before was now solved. Yulo couldn't help but laugh. The system sent him a surprise as soon as he woke up. Let him directly catch up with Golden Lion Shiki in terms of armament hockey. If we fight again, Yulo will win much more easily. Suddenly, Yulo thought that he had not clocked in yet. System, check in daily. Ding. I successfully clocked in today. Congratulations to host for getting Advanced Observation Hockey. Oh, let me go. The system really gave Yulo a big surprise. There was just a high-level weapon color, and now there is a high-level knowledge color. Coupled with the Premium Conqueror's Hockey all reaches Premium. Yulo released Observation Hockey, directly covering the entire Hive Island. The information that can be perceived has also become more detailed. At this time, Yulo sensed Rox appearing at the door. Your hockey broke through. Rox pushed open the door and asked curiously. He felt it outside. A powerful observation hockey came from Yulo's room. Yes, the color of knowledge has reached a high level. Yulo got off the bed, nodded and said. Since Rox asked this, he must have noticed it and there is nothing to hide. Hey, so you were just at the intermediate level before. Rox looked at Yulo in surprise, a little in disbelief. He had paid attention to Yulo's previous battles. At that time, Yulo's knowledge and experience were already comparable to those of a high-level person. Yes, but in battle, it is used in combination with the Fire Eyes. Yulo saw what Rox was thinking and explained aloud. When he first gained the insight color, he discovered that it was similar to Hu Xiaodong. When both are used at the same time, seeing and hearing can be enhanced. I see. Rox suddenly understood. Then Rox thought for a moment, held Yulo's shoulders, and said. In the next period of time, I will arrange a secret mission for you. Since the battle, everyone has been talking about it and there is no intention to train or work. Rox even noticed that after Ochaku and Kaido came back, they drank for a day and a night. He thought it would be better to take control of Yulo for the time being. It just so happens that he has a task at hand, which involves his plan to take revenge on Marine. Secret mission, but I don't have a crew. Yulo was stunned for a moment, looking a little stunned. Assign him a mission, and he has no crew, so he is a loner. This mission does not require a crew, it is enough to act alone. I originally planned to let Shiki go, but now he is injured and has to rest for a few days. Newgate was unsuitable and his figure was too conspicuous. I asked him to train the crew on the island. Rox's voice was slightly mysterious and he explained several things to Yulo. Then he looked at Yulo, who was getting serious, and suddenly gave himself a thumbs up. I'm such a clever little kid. What mission? Yulo stared and asked in a deep voice. He suddenly remembered what Rox said yesterday. Coupled with what I just said, this is already very obvious. Rox only mentioned him, Shiki, and Newgate. It's clearly related to the plan to take revenge on Marine. Therefore, the person who performs the task can only choose from 3 people. Shiki and Newgate couldn't go, so he must have gone. Hey, it's about celestial dragons. Rox smiled and told some exciting news. Yulo's heart trembled, and he suddenly smiled vaguely. Celestial dragons. Interesting. In Rox Pirate, the crew's races span the sea. He has seen all kinds of humanoids. Only the celestial dragons have not been seen. The so-called world aristocrats, based on the information I got. After we snatched 2 celestial dragons, the celestial dragons were furious. The 5 elders ordered Marine to serve his crime and not to let the celestial dragons' nobles hold Marine accountable. The incompetent and angry celestial dragons pointed their swords at the 2 alliance countries that paid tribute to the heavenly gold. They will send representatives to the participating countries in the near future. Although they are protected by dedicated personnel, their strength is far from yours. Your task is to kill them. At the same time, it can divert the attention of Marine and the Mole. Marine scouts have been around the periphery of our territory in the past few days. Rox said with a ferocious smile on his face. Yulo was about to speak when suddenly the system voice appeared. Ding. Trigger mission check-in. Please host go to the participating countries and kill the evil celestial dragons. The task has successfully checked in, and the system will issue rewards. Yulo was overjoyed. The system understood me best. And he found that the system was becoming more and more user-friendly. He can always trigger check-ins or issue rewards based on what he wants or needs. Okay, no problem, I'll leave in the evening. Yulo took over the task neatly. He had long been tired of staying on Beehive Island. Just went for a walk outside and killed a few celestial dragons. By the way, if you need crew members, you can select them from the country. There are still many people living in those countries who have potential. Rox thought that Yulo had no crew and reminded him casually. Yulo nodded, not taking it too seriously. Rox was right, but he wasn't right. People who live in the country generally do not go to sea to become pirates. Not to mention the feared Rox pirate. Unless you are the kind of person who is cornered and in a difficult situation. Then get ready. After Rox finished speaking, he stood up and left. Yulo watched Rox go and didn't return to the room until he was far away. Rox is really powerful, and Yulo's advanced knowledge covers the entire island. But when Rox came to the door, Yulo noticed his breath. Judging from this, Rox's knowledge and appearance are probably the best among the best. But don't worry, it's only a matter of time before you surpass Rox. Yulo then left the room and headed to Golden Lion Shiki's ship. As soon as I got on the boat, countless eyes looked at me. Master Yulo, you are here. Master Yulo, have you eaten? Master Yulo, would you like a drink? It was lunchtime, and everyone was greeting and asking for help. Yulo waved back and declined with a smile. He came to Shiki's room and opened the door directly. The smell of barbecue and fine wine hit my face. Shiki's upper body is wrapped in bandages, and bloodline can be faintly seen. At this time, he was sitting on the bed, eating meat and drinking wine. The way he wolfed down his food didn't look like an injured person at all. Shiki, you're recovering well. I enjoy seeing you like this. Yulo said with a smile, picked up a bottle of wine and drank it. Gia ha ha ha, it's boy Yulo. This little injury will heal in just a few days. Shiki was stunned, swallowed the meat in his mouth, looked at Yulo and laughed. There was no alert on his ship, so he thought it was the crew coming to deliver wine and food. Yulo didn't feel surprised when he saw Shiki in full swing. People in the pirate world are so urinary, their body's ability to absorb and recover is amazing. What's more, for a strong person like Shiki, the so-called return of life is not a problem. After only 1 day and 1 night, I was able to jump happily. By the way, where's Newgate? Yulo asked, but there was no sign of Newgate outside. Captain Rox sent him away. Shiki answered vaguely. Sure enough. Yulo heard this and thought to himself. I think it's time to inform Newgate about training the crew. Well, after fighting with me, will you gain anything? After coming back yesterday, I feel like my conquerors are more flexible. It probably won't take long to master Conqueror's entanglement. Shiki said proudly after eating and drinking. There was no trace of yesterday's disappointment on his face. Shiki has no emotions for Yulo. The top strong man on the sea still has this kind of magnanimity. Really? That's good. Yulo was a little surprised, he didn't expect it after the first battle. Shiki stepped half-foot into the Conqueror's entwined threshold. This is a more difficult skill than exposing the weapon's color. Compared with the difficulty of armed color coil, it is simply a younger brother. But it's just a way out, nothing more. I don't seem to have made much progress. The corners of Yulo's mouth curled up slightly, thinking of a good idea. With a flick of his right hand, the wine bottle on the table exploded. Gia ha ha ha, boy Yulo, this is nothing. Shiki became more and more proud and laughed. Immediately, the voice stopped suddenly and the expression on his face froze. The armed color is exposed. Finally reacting, Shiki's expression changed dramatically. The proud smile disappeared, replaced by a look of shock. Dumbfounded, jaw-dropping, cannot be overstated. I'm just wondering. I'll know it as soon as I wake up. It turns out that this is the display of armed sex. Yulo seemed to be possessed by the actor, pretending to be surprised and mumbling. Shiki regained his composure, and the corner of his mouth twitched violently as he listened to Yulo's words of wanting to be beaten. He looked at Yulo with resentful eyes, gritted his teeth but was helpless. This Yulo is so good at acting that he doesn't believe it. Yulo doesn't know that this is showing off his weapons. Suddenly, Shiki couldn't help but stretch his fingers. At that moment, he really wanted to slap himself twice. What the hell, you were so loud, now you are being slapped hard in the face. I originally wanted to teach Yulo the technique of displaying his armed colors. Okay. Wow, I'm just being sentimental. HMPH, you came to me to ask me to board your ship. Shiki snorted and called for more wine and meat. After all, he lost the duel, and he would agree to Yulo's request. No, you're overthinking it. I'm not interested in you. You have your own way to go, and so do I. Yulo suppressed his laughter, became serious, and spoke. He had never had the idea that people like Shiki would be restrained by following him. Only like in the anime, Shiki can shine. Didn't Shiki come up with the title, Flying Admiral, by himself? As this so, Shiki was slightly surprised that Yulo was not interested in him. He is a little behind Yulo, but his future achievements will never be lower. I really don't know what Yulo boy is thinking. But this is better, being inferior to others is not his style. Okay, I'm leaving first. Yulo looked at the time, turned and left. We have to prepare the eternity pointer later. This is the disadvantage of not having a crew. Everything you do must be done by yourself. Get the eternity pointer from rocks, and a bunch of stuff. Yulo is all put into the system inventory. Stayed until evening, said hello to Rocks, Newgate, Shiki, and set off. Yulo came to the beach alone, and there was no boat on the sea. This is why Newgate is unsuitable for this mission. Acting alone does not require a boat. After all, it is too troublesome to sail a boat alone. Newgate is powerful, but not flexible enough to fly for long periods of time. Therefore, we can only choose Yulo, who is in good physical condition compared to Shiki. Yulo took out the needle of eternity and checked the direction. Then the inner fire of Qinglian burned and gathered into 5 meters long blue wings of fire. The wings vibrated, soared into the sky, and turned into a stream of light, quickly passing over the sea. The overall strength of the participating countries at the target location of this mission is not considered strong. Among the more than 170 participating countries of world government, it can only be regarded as above average. 3 days later, Yulo came to the kingdom of Godasheng. At this time Yulo is high in the air above the palace. As early as when passing through the harbor, the Celestial Dragon's ship was discovered. Needless to say, it's quite luxurious. Observation hockey is delivered at fixed points, covering the entire palace. Huh. Why is there only one? Yulo was a little confused and muttered to himself. Judging from the information perceived, 3 celestial dragons came this time. A father, a brother and sister. What a whole family of 3. There is only 1 middle-aged celestial dragons in the palace now. The other 2 are causing trouble somewhere. After all, celestial dragons can't do any good. No matter what, I'll kill you first if you're in bad luck. Yulo smiled ferociously, murderous intent flashed in his heart, and his figure fell downwards. There are many guards in the palace, obviously specially arranged to protect the celestial dragons. On the periphery are some spies and combatants from the CP organization. In terms of strength, they are much stronger than the palace guards. Compared to Yulo, it is far different. The palace occupies a very large area, and the place where the celestial dragons stay is in the center. The level of luxury is even more magnificent than the king's palace. It's enough to show how much the kings of these franchise countries lick the celestial dragons. Yulo was extremely fast, and in a flash he arrived in front of the palace where the celestial dragons lived. At this time, people from the CP organization discovered Yulo. Who are you? Don't you know it's forbidden to come near this place? Members of the CP organization quickly surrounded Yulo. The movement here also attracted the palace guards. Why, don't you recognize me? Yulo said with a playful smile. One sentence stirred up the memories of members of the CP organization. As an intelligence agent directly under the world government, the most basic ability is to know all the information about major pirates. You are Rocks C. Members of the CP organization looked horrified, and all of them fainted before they could finish speaking. It wasn't just them. In the moment just now, Yulo's conqueror's hockey directly enveloped the palace, and those who couldn't bear it all fell down. Cleaning up the trash fish is one thing, but not having time to notify the marine is another. Yulo walked into the palace, and 2 white figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Wearing a white suit with a white cape draped behind his back. Cipher Pole Igus 0, the superior of CP1 CP9, the highest cipher pole, an official directly subordinate to the world's noble celestial dragons, known as the strongest shield of the celestial dragons. Well, what I said should be right. Yulo didn't stop and muttered something while approaching the 2 of them. Among the entire organization directly under the world government, only CP0 can make Yulo take notice. As for CP1 CP9, They are just collecting intelligence and will not become a reality. Rob Lucci, who is known as the strongest person in CP9 in the anime for 800 years. It really looks like a joke. You are the Rocks pirate, Yulo, with a bounty of 1.5 billion. What are you doing here? The faces of the two people in CP0 were gloomy, and their bodies were tense as if they were facing a powerful enemy. No one thought that Yulo, who had snatched the gold from the sky and became famous in one battle, would appear here at this moment. And this Yulo actually knows so many secrets. Oh, I'm here to kill the celestial dragons. Yulo came to the two of them and said nonchalantly. Don't even think about it. Go to hell. Upon hearing this, the two of them jumped up, covered Armament Hockey's attacks, and hit Yulo directly. Finger pistol. Tempest kick. The two people from CP0 pointed and kicked, using all their strength. They cannot take it lightly when faced with the rumored monster Yulo. Bang. The two attacks froze, as if hitting an invisible wall. Boom. Immediately afterwards, a powerful impact burst out, knocking the two people away. Tisk. 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 That's all you have. It seems that in CP0, he is just a minion. Yulo walked straight over and flicked the Chinglian Earth Heartfire in his hand. The two CP0 people who fell to the ground showed fear. Before he could even scream, he was burned into two piles of ashes. Yulo was not interested, he was too weak. After fighting Zephyr, Shiki and others, he couldn't be interested in this kind of strength at all. Deep inside the palace, it was very quiet. Yulo saw the celestial dragons lying on the ground. He looks middle-aged, dressed in luxurious clothes, and wears a bubble hood on his head. Haha, you are so weak. Yulo sneered at this and was stunned by Conqueror's hockey. What's the difference between him and those trash fish? He still has the nerve to call himself a world noble. On the ground beside him, there was a beautiful woman who was covered in scars and had no breath left. Yulo noticed that he was wearing clothes belonging to the royal family. Very obviously, being sacrificed to the celestial dragons. Died by the celestial dragons. Yulo flicked his finger, and his weapon color was slightly exposed. Algernon Saint's bubble hood shattered. Ah! A scream sounded out, and the shock and pain caused Saint Algernon to wake up. What's going on? Where's my bubble hood? Damn it, this dirty air, I'm actually breathing slave air. After waking up, he roared loudly and almost strangled himself to death. How could noble celestial dragons breathe the air of slaves? If this was known to his fellow tribesmen, he would never be able to hold his head high again. Then you might as well stop breathing. Yulo's eyes were condensed, full of chill, and he spoke coldly. Celestial dragons are so disgusting. Ah. You untouchable. It was only then that Saint Algernon noticed Yulo. Anger suddenly went to his head, and he yelled crazily. Boom. Yulo directly fired a burst of energy. Before Algernon finished speaking, he was punched into the wall and spit out a large mouthful of blood. The pampered celestial dragons are simply vulnerable. Where are the CP0 people? What do you do for food? Come here quickly and kill this untouchable. Saint Algernon, who was stuck in the wall, showed a pained expression. But his attitude is still arrogant and domineering, and he wants to kill Yulo. A pariah with an open mouth, a pariah with a closed mouth, looking arrogant. Those two men in white have gone to hell. Even if you shout until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you. The sound of celestial dragons was really annoying, and Yulo couldn't help but pick his ears. Who are you? Who gave you the courage to kill my guards? You don't know I'm a celestial dragons. Yulo's words made him sober up. This man actually killed his guard, which was simply unforgivable. I am the one who robbed you of your heavenly gold. He's also the one who killed you. Yulo said with interest, slowly walking towards Algernon Saint. You actually want to kill me? I'm a celestial dragons. Do you want to be hunted down by Marine Admiral? If you want to live, hurry up and let me go. Saint Algernon looked at Yulo in shock, furious in his heart. This untouchable actually wanted to kill him. This is a naked insult from celestial dragons. But now he's moved out of the Marine Admiral. He must be able to overwhelm this untouchable. Wait until this pariah lets him go. He must torture this pariah to death. As expected of the celestial dragons, they can be so tough at a time like this. A bunch of idiots. Yulo was left speechless and started swearing. In this case, one is either really stupid or has some backbone. Obviously, celestial dragons prefers the former. Crack. 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 Yulo came to Saint Algernon and slapped him in the face. Untouchable. Ah. You're dead. Ah. Stop fighting. Please let me go and stop fighting. Saint Algernon, who had been fighting back, was beaten until he begged for mercy. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen, and his speech became slurred. A playful smile appeared on Yulo's face. It turns out that celestial dragons also beg for mercy. Where did your toughness go? Where are the treasures on this list? Yulo picked up a list full of various treasures. It should be the treasure that Saint Algernon came here to pay tribute to the celestial dragons. Although it is far from the gold in the sky, it still has a few good things. Still in the king's treasury, Saint Algernon was really frightened and answered honestly. Although he felt distressed about this, he wanted to live even more. Treasure house. Take me there. Yulo's eyes lit up and he said without any doubt. A treasure trove of franchised countries, this is great stuff. I'm afraid it's not much more than the gold in the sky. After all, it is a country's savings over many years. With such a huge amount of treasures, Yulo, who regarded money as dirt, couldn't help but feel moved. I have no idea. Holy Algernon's eyes were roving, his face was full of unwillingness, and he was trying to fool around. He came all the way to get these treasures. That's mine. How can I hand over the treasure I got? You'd better think carefully before answering. Yulo's eyes suddenly became cold. The inner fire of Qinglian on her right hand started to burn. Ah. So hot. The scorching heat instantly engulfed Algernon's saint. I suddenly felt dizzy, as if my body was about to melt. Saint Algernon couldn't even think about it if this fire burned his body. I'll take you there, I know where it is. Saint Algernon, terrified of death, completely succumbed. Come down you. Yulo threw Algernon's saint, who was stuck on the wall, to the ground. Saint Algernon looked sluggish and huddled up for a while before he was ready to stand up. Kneel down and lead the way. Suddenly, 2 chi energy shot out, directly breaking his calf. Ah, Saint Algernon screamed, the severe pain making him miserable. Can I just lead you? Why break my legs? He felt endless humiliation in his heart. When have celestial dragons ever suffered from these? At this moment, he wanted to die. Yulo followed behind, and Saint Algernon in front, crawling forward. Saint Algernon brought Yulo to the central palace. The treasure trove of the nation lies deep within the king's palace. He said shakily, fearing that he would continue to be tortured. Really? Yulo glanced coldly. Yes, I swear, I'm really here and I'm definitely not lying. Saint Algernon's hair stood on end and he lowered his head in panic. Now that his legs are disabled, he really doesn't dare to be clever anymore. Otherwise, the whole person will be ruined next time. Let's go. Yulo naturally saw that Saint Algernon was not lying. He unleashes observation haki throughout. All the movements in the entire palace can be seen at a glance. In the palace, there were many people lying everywhere. They were all the guards responsible for guarding this place, and they were knocked unconscious by Yulo's conquerors. Boom. Yulo came to the treasure house door and kicked the door open. The violent gesture frightened Saint Algernon's body to tremble. Yulo quickly took inventory, except for a large amount of treasure. There are also some good quality weapons and a few devil fruits. But unfortunately, they are all the fruits of Zone. I guess all the good stuff was donated to celestial dragons. Yulo just stuffed everything into the inventory. This inventory is actually equivalent to system space. And it's one that Yulo can use at will. After plundering the treasure house, Yulo turned and left. Carrying the Algernon Saint, the celestial dragon's ship flew towards the harbor. From the mouth of Saint Algernon, the other 2 celestial dragons, his sons and daughters. Disdainfully living in a palace full of slaves, he stayed on the ship, waiting for Saint Algernon to return and bring back their share of the treasure. After Yulo left the palace, someone gradually woke up. The streets outside the palace were deserted. To keep the people from angering the celestial dragons, the king drove out all the people. Yulo quickly approaches the celestial dragon's ship. Suddenly, a gunshot was heard. Ah, it hurts. You. Let go of Al. His voice was immature and lacked confidence, and he seemed young. You little slave. How dare you contradict the world's nobles? A young but vicious voice sounded, with a feminine edge. Yulo hears movement and observation haki senses it. I immediately understood the situation ahead. Haha, as expected of celestial dragons, they can cause trouble wherever they go. Yulo's eyes flashed with disgust. In the open space of the harbor, a boy sat on the ground with a very painful expression and tears in his eyes. The wound on the leg was a bullet wound, and blood gushed out like a spring. Did you see it? This is what happens if you dare to contradict the celestial dragons. You little bastard, did you hear that? Rosemary Palace's expression was ferocious, completely different from her appearance. He took 2 sudden steps forward, kicked the boy who was shot down, and stomped on his face. Ah. Damn it, let go of Al. The injured boy's companion was furious, holding a worn-out tachi, and rushed over like crazy. But it's not that easy. As soon as the young man took 2 steps out, he was kicked out by a guard. Bang! It was like a cannonball flying out and falling hard to the ground. The young man held on to the sword in his hand and stood up with difficulty. Give. Let me. Let go. Ow. While his body was shaking violently, he still slowly raised his sword. You are untouchables, and you are my slaves. Don't you want to save him? Come on. Rosemary shouted ferociously, raised her foot and stomped towards Al's head. She felt unprecedented excitement, and her expression became extremely distorted. She enjoys torturing slaves. The harder the slave struggles, the more excited she becomes. Ronnie. Looking at the fallen souls, Al felt death, and his fearful heart was filled with resentment. Although his body was squirming crazily, his injured leg just refused to obey. Al. The young man in the distance roared, and his entire pupils seemed to be gray. Just when Ruth Marie Pallas's foot was about to fall. Buzz. Buzz. 2 weak auras appeared and disappeared in just a few seconds. In an instant, Ruth Mary Saint stopped moving. She was a little dazed and confused, and she almost fainted in the past few seconds. Interesting. Yulo was slightly startled, surprised, and then a little surprised. Conqueror's hockey. There's no mistaking it, it's Conqueror's. Even if it is passively stimulated, the momentum is very weak. But Yulo's vision and color clearly perceived it. He actually met 2 young men with the appearance of a king, and there were 2 of them. Because the momentum was too weak, Rosemary Pallas woke up, couldn't help but become angry, and was about to lift her foot and stomp down again. Bang! Screams sounded. Yulo released the invisible hockey, and Ruth Marie Pallas was knocked away. He fell to the ground and curled up, wailing angrily and silently. Who? The face of the only CP0 guard changed drastically, and he was horrified by the sudden change. The celestial dragons were injured because of his low eyelids, which was his biggest oversight. Even if he kills the murderer, he will not get any good results. What's more, whether it can be killed or not is another matter. He turned on observation hockey and found no extra aura except for the people present. On the luxurious boat, Gerald Saint heard the sound and walked out quickly. How dare anyone harm the noble celestial dragons? CP0, what do you do for food? Seeing Ruth Marie Pallas vomiting blood and falling to the ground, Gerald Saint rushed over angrily. Clatter, clatter, clatter. There was a sound of footsteps, and Yulo appeared in front of them in an instant. Ouch, he casually threw Saint Algernon in front of him. Lord Saint Algernon. CP0's guard kept his eyes wide open and was suddenly frightened. Isn't Lord Saint Algernon in the palace? How could it become such a miserable situation? I'm afraid I'm done for. CP0, save me quickly and kill this pariah. Saint Algernon grasped at straws and shouted hoarsely. In his eyes, Yulo is simply a devil. Disregard the noble celestial dragons. He even broke his legs. He was really afraid that he would be killed by Yulo the next moment. Let me go quickly, Saint Algernon, otherwise. Monster. Yulo. CP0 guard armament hockey covered, took an offensive stance, and immediately faced Yulo. Free the celestial dragons now and his fate might be better. This attention didn't matter, his pupils shrank sharply, and he recognized Yulo immediately. Why? Why do you appear here? CP0's guard trembled slightly, and his tone was a little unsound. At this time, my heart was filled with waves. It turned out to be someone from Rock's Pirate. The palace's CP0 and subordinate organization personnel were probably all wiped out. Thinking of this, the CP0 guard gritted his teeth and rushed over. If the guarding celestial dragons are killed, they will be hunted by the world government. Compared to the rumored monster Yulo, the consequences of the failed escort mission made him even more distraught. You're really stubborn. Yulo's sense of sight and perception, and after the CP0 guard recognized him, he felt scared and wanted to retreat. In the end, he still chose to attack. His fear of world government is simply deep-rooted. Of course, to be more precise, it is the fear of the world's noble celestial dragons. Yulo punched lightly, and the rushing CP0 guard was directly shattered. Blood clots and pieces of flesh fell to the ground, landing right in front of Saint Algernon. Don't kill me. The bloody scene made him tremble physically and mentally. Cruel reality shattered his imaginary hopes. Why don't I kill you? You've always wanted to kill me. Yulo summoned the black knife and put the blade against Saint Algernon's face. The voice was as cold as the blade of a sword, making Saint Algernon feel like he was falling into hell. You despicable pirate, you not only injured me, but also killed my father. Who gave you the courage? We are the great and noble celestial dragons. Let go of my father quickly and we can spare your life. Gerald Saint helped Ruth Marie Pallas up, and the two of them held their heads high and shouted angrily. What's happening here? Al and Ronnie on the side looked a little confused, with question marks on their heads. Isn't the hostage in the hands of the benefactor who saved them the father of the bad guy? Why are these two bad guys still so arrogant and domineering? But he couldn't understand it at all, so Ronnie shook his head vigorously. He ran to Al, picked up Al and stepped aside. You two bastards, shut up. Saint Algernon's expression changed again and again, and he suddenly burst into anger and shouted. Please, you two bastards, shut your stinky mouths. Now he can see clearly that Yulo is a master who is not afraid of anything. The threat of moving out of Marine Admiral has no effect at all. The noble celestial dragons are nothing to them. As a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death, he doesn't want to die now. If you don't want him to die, come over and kneel down. Yulo's voice was cold and he looked at the two of them with cold eyes. Underneath his cold appearance, he was actually extremely speechless. Please figure out the situation. The guards are so pissed off. Why are they still shouting here? It's true that a dog's father has no tiger's son, and his brains and energy are exactly the same. He is better than his master. Bold, you bitch. Originally, after Saint Algernon shouted angrily, both of them shut their mouths. But as soon as Yulo's words came out, Ruth Marie Pallas immediately went berserk. She felt this was an insult to her. Shut up, come here and kneel down. Algernon Saint immediately shouted angrily, interrupting Rosemary Pallas. He was shaking violently because just now, the blade pierced his skin. Father, you. Gerald Saint and Ruth Mary Pallas looked at Algernon Saint in shock. They did not expect that Saint Algernon would say such a thing. If they kneel down to lowly pirates, they will be deprived of their celestial dragon status. The two were extremely entangled for a while, not knowing what to do. But when they thought about not being able to make celestial dragons, the two decided on something. Pervert distorted thoughts began to arise in my mind. Saint Algernon, we are celestial dragons. If you want to kneel, he will kneel. Saint Algernon, you kneeling lowly pirate, you are not worthy of the celestial dragons. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Pallas had fierce eyes and severely distorted facial expressions. Ah. You two bitches, I'm yours. This made Saint Algernon furious and barked like a mad dog. It's worse than a beast. Yulo's body was filled with murderous intent. As he raised the knife, Algernon's head fell to the ground. Boom. Boom. The head rolled to the feet of the two of them, and they collapsed to the ground in fright. Dead. He really killed. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Pallas had dull eyes and murmured in their mouths. Yulo slowly walked towards the two of them, who were frightened out of their wits. At this moment, the system prompt sound appeared. Ding. The mission was successfully checked in. Congratulations to host for receiving the reward, Conqueror's Entanglement. The task reward has been automatically given to the host. Conqueror's winding technique was integrated into Yulo's body and turned into muscle memory. Just kill one celestial dragons and the mission is complete. Yulo was surprised and immediately reacted. The mission only requires killing celestial dragons, and there is no stipulation on how many to kill. Immediately, I stopped thinking about it and was ready to try Conqueror's Entanglement. However, this was not over yet. Before he could feel it, the system's voice sounded again. Ding. Trigger mission check-in. The King's qualifications are 1 in a million. Please host recruit 2 teenagers to become crew members. The task is successfully checked in, and the system will issue rewards. After the words fell, the system disappeared. Yulo was stunned by the sudden surprise. This system is really a roundworm in his stomach. The boy who awakened Conqueror's Hockey has 1 in a million talents and qualifications. Yulo will definitely not miss this kind of talent. Yulo thought, then threw 2 match ropes and tied up Gerald Saint and Ruth Mary Pallas. The temperature is under his control and will not burn the 2 celestial dragons to death. My benefactor, can I kill this female pervert with my own hands? Suddenly, Al, the boy who was shot in the leg, spoke up. Yes, Al is injured like this, and I want to be with Al. Ronnie, who was supporting Al, was startled, looked at Al who was covered in injuries, and showed a vicious expression. As soon as these words came out, Gerald Saint and Ruth Mary Pallas were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat. Their lives were in Yulo's hands, and they could only pray in their hearts that Yulo would not agree. You two surprised me. However, she is a celestial dragons. Have you thought about the consequences? Yulo was a little surprised and did not answer directly. The idea that these two teenagers were going to kill the celestial dragons was outrageous. But, isn't this the kind of person he needs? He has talent and ideas, but his strength is too weak. Yes, you must be a pirate. My name is Al and his name is Ronnie. Both of us are orphans and have no worries. We'd like to come on board with you, if that's okay. Al and Ronnie were silent for a while, and finally made a bold decision. They also know some of the consequences of killing celestial dragons. I'm afraid that after Yulo leaves, the two of them will be wiped out. Despite this, I still want to kill the celestial dragons, otherwise it will be difficult to relieve the hatred in my heart. In their eyes, Yulo can kill celestial dragons at will. He must have the strength to compete with his enemies. So the two decided unanimously to join Yulo's ship, seeking refuge while continuing to grow stronger. Yes, I'll let you do it yourself. But it's still useful for the time being. If you want to kill it, you have to wait a month. Yulo smiled and nodded, and the young man took the initiative to speak, saving him from wasting his words. As for the two celestial dragons, a good idea suddenly occurred to him. I plan to discuss it with Rox after I go back. Even if Rox doesn't agree, it won't be too late to kill him when the time comes. Well, yes, we are willing to wait. Al and Ronnie nodded heavily without hesitation. After some thinking just now, joining Yulo's pirate ship is far more important than killing the celestial dragons. Even if they couldn't kill the celestial dragons with their own hands, the two of them would still get on the ship with Yulo. What's more, they can wait for just a month. Ha 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 ha, Al, Ronnie. You should start as a trainee crew member first. Yulo laughed loudly. The two crew members with king qualifications made him feel much better. Okay, boss. Ronnie helped Al and came to Yulo's side. The two of them responded in unison. Well, boss, that's a good title, ha 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 ha. Yulo touched his chin. It was the first time someone called him boss. It felt really good. The two slutty bosses shouted, the mission check-in should be completed. As soon as Yulo thought this, the system prompt sound appeared. Ding. The mission was successfully checked in. Congratulations to host for receiving the reward. All thunder breathing techniques have been solved, and the devil fruit has been strengthened once. The reward has been distributed, host can check it by himself. Yulo's eyes are shining, I'll give you a good system. The thunder breathing technique in Demon Slayer can be regarded as a combination of breathing and swordsmanship. The effect after using the breathing method is similar to the secret technique of improving strength. Only by fully mastering the breathing method can your strength be permanently improved. The most important thing is that the devil fruit enhancement is even more pervert. His green lotus earth core fire was strengthened by the Mera Mera fruit. These two things came at the perfect time. If only every mission was this fast. Yulo showed a satisfied smile, the system was getting more and more reliable. Not only was the task completed quickly, but the reward was also what he wanted. Al and Ronnie, who have just been acquired, have good talents and qualifications, but their strength is too weak. There is no powerful devil fruit or a basic exercise method. Unexpectedly, all the rewards for a mission were revealed. Da. At this moment, there was the sound of chaotic footsteps on the street. Is anyone awake? Yulo motioned for Al and Ronnie to step back, and he turned to face the street. A large wave of palace guards rushed over in a mighty manner. But it stopped dozens of meters in front of Yulo. The guards moved closer to both sides, clearing a path. You bold pirate, where is Lord Saint Algernon? A man in rich clothes walked out, shouting in panic and anger, followed by a muscular man. No, here you go. Yulo kicked Saint Algernon's head over. Ah. Damn it, you actually killed Lord Algernon. The king looked at the head in front of him, and his mind went blank for a moment. It's over, the celestial dragons are dead. When he realized what he was doing, he was shocked, fell backwards, and murmured to himself. Damn pirate, it's just a step too late. The guard commander quickly supported the king, his face was extremely gloomy, and he was gnashing his teeth in anger. After waking up, he discovered that the celestial dragons were missing and immediately organized an escort to pursue them. The mentality of being lucky at first was now shattered. The celestial dragons are dead. How dare this pirate? It's over now, what should we do? This ferocious head caused the guards to panic. The celestial dragons under their protection were killed by pirates. All of them, including the king, were to blame. Maybe the sin will not lead to death, but it will still be punished. Thinking of this, people became distracted and stepped back unconsciously. If you don't want to be punished, cheer me up. I have already informed Marine. As long as Marine arrives, he will not be able to escape. Seeing this situation, the guard commander IFLI handed the king over to his subordinates to take care of him, and shouted with a gloomy face. He understood the reactions of the guards, so he must not let them retreat. Only if Marine arrives to catch the murderer will he not be punished. Ifli's words were a shot in the arm. I'm just trying to hold it off. First hope Marine will come soon. The guards visibly cheered up when they heard Marine was coming. Only Ivli, standing in front, stared at Yulo with a frown. What he said to the guard was half true and half false. It was true that Marine was coming, but if he wanted to hold this man back, Ivli's heart was beating. Conqueror's Haki stunned everyone in the palace. Although he doesn't have conquerors, he does have some information. This should be something only high-level conquerors can do. Conqueror's strength corresponds to its own strength. And he felt like he had seen Yulo somewhere. But under such circumstances, he was not allowed to be distracted. No matter who he is, every second he can delay is a second. Ifli's whole body was tense, ready at any time, and he muttered to himself. Marine. Are you coming? Hearing Ivli's words, Yulo's eyes flashed, but he didn't feel surprised. Protecting the celestial dragons comes first among the Marine's mission principles. However, celestial dragons usually rarely have trouble, and Marine mainly targets pirates. And once something happens to the celestial dragons, Naval headquarters will inevitably dispatch the Admiral. Delaying time? I don't have time to waste with you. Yulo chuckled, a dark light flashing in his eyes. The momentum poured out, and black airflow appeared around the body. He released a burst of Haki that enveloped all of the guardsmen. These black air currents, are they high-level conquerors? Ifli suddenly felt pressure, as if facing a formidable enemy. So strong Conqueror's Haki. It feels so oppressive to release even a little bit. Wait. Black airstream, high-level conquerors. Suddenly, Yulo's appearance overlapped with a figure in Ifli's mind. Monster Yulo. You are Yulo, a cadre of Rock's pirate. Ivli's eyes widened and he blurted out an exclamation. At this time, he recognized Yulo, but he didn't expect that he was a cadre of Rock's pirate. Ifli's expression was extremely ugly. What a waste of time. If the delay continues, the Shinigami will arrive before Marine can wait. When the guards heard this, their faces turned pale and they became panicked. Rock's pirate's reputation is more intimidating than Shinigami. Not to mention Yulo, the man who robbed the country of its heavenly gold. Ronnie, Al, let's go. Yulo's observation Haki sensed the emotions of Ivri and others. Knowing that they didn't dare to stop him anymore, unless they wanted to see Shinigami. Ronnie supported Al and followed Yulo obediently. Looking at the injured Al, Yulo frowned. You two, come here and kneel down. Yulo noticed Gerald Saint and Ruth Mary Palace. The match ropes on the two men were transferred to their necks. Yulo's thoughts will kill them. The two people heard it just now. This person is a cadre of Rock's pirate. They were the ones who robbed the heavenly gold that was rightfully theirs. This is the overlord among pirates, and he is dedicated to confronting the world government. If the two of them disobey, they will definitely be brutally killed. Gerald Street and Ruth Mary Palace endured fear and humiliation. Kneeling obediently in front of Yulo, his forehead pressed against the ground. Ronnie, Al. You two ride on. Yulo pointed and said casually. Ah. Ronnie and Al were stunned, their mouths wide open, and they were at a loss. Boss, no, ride celestial dragons. Hurry up and let them carry you. Yulo repeated patiently. Hearing Yulo speak for the second time, Ronnie and Al reacted. Al, I'll help you up. Ronnie nodded solemnly and helped Al sit up. Ronnie then quickly mounted another celestial dragons as well. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Palace were in tears and let Ronnie and Al sit on them. They had never suffered such torture before. The endless humiliation made their faces turn red. I thought it would be over when I knelt down, but ended up being used as a mount. They had always been riding others, but this was the first time they were being ridden by others. Let's go. Yulo took a step forward without looking back. Gerald Saint and Ruth Marie Palace, carrying Ronnie and Al, follow Yulo. Seeing that the celestial dragons who were bullying them just now, have now become their mounts. This huge reversal made Ronnie and Al secretly happy. Suddenly, I felt that I dare not kill celestial dragons, but I dare not ride celestial dragons. Ifli and the guards at the rear were shocked and speechless. The aloof celestial dragons, kneeling grovelingly, serve as mounts for pirates. Incredibly, it was the first time in their lives that they had seen such a scene. In the horrified eyes of everyone, Yulo came to the celestial dragon's ship. Celestial dragon's ship is so luxurious, it's comparable to Newgate's Moby Dick. Ha 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 ha. Yes, yes, this ship belongs to me. Yulo looked at the giant ships moored in the harbor and couldn't help but exclaimed. Such a big ship is rare on the sea. What's more, it's the ship of the world's nobles, celestial dragons. The facilities and configurations above are all the most complete and advanced. Such a rare ship should be taken as one's own. Get aboard. Yulo waved his hand and felt very satisfied. After Yulo and others got on the boat, they found that there were still some people on the boat. Judging from his clothes, he should be a slave of celestial dragons. Stay on board in your original position for the time being. After half a month, everyone can leave. Yulo has no interest in these people. Not only does he have no strength, he also has no talent. But he needs these manpower now and keeps them temporarily. Later, send them away and let them regain their freedom. These people are afraid of Yulo and dare not say what they are thinking. As long as Yulo doesn't kill them, it doesn't matter if he obeys his orders. There was a roar. The huge ship left the harbor and sailed slowly toward the sea. With Yulo's departure, the atmosphere has eased. The pressure on the guards disappeared instantly. He collapsed directly to the ground, gasping for air. Oh, I'm afraid I might get into trouble this time. Ifli's chest rose and fell, and he looked at the sea with complicated eyes. This time 1 celestial dragons died, and 2 more were kidnapped by Yulo. World government and naval headquarters will never give up. Everyone in the guard, including the king, will be severely punished. Bulu Bulu. At this time, Ivli's phone rang. Hello, I'm IFLI. It must be Marine's call, and IVLI saw hope. Our Marine G1 branch arrived first, and our headquarters admiral will arrive soon. Report your location now. A commanding voice came from the other end of the phone. We are in the harbor of the royal city, and the pirates have just set sail on the celestial dragon's ship. Ifli felt relieved and explained quickly and excitedly. What? The pirate ran away. Didn't I ask you to hold him back? The majestic voice suddenly changed, and he began to hold accountable. I've been doing it for a long time without delay. If I want to finish it, you have to finish it too. It's not our fault. That person is Yulo from Rock's Pirate. Faced with Captain Marine's scolding, IVLI couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. It's no wonder just his group of guards, couldn't stop Yulo. Rock's Pirate. Monster Yulo. What's going on with the celestial dragons? The voice on the other end of the phone was heavy and he quickly asked about the situation of celestial dragons. The officers of Rock's Pirate never care about celestial dragons or anything like that. Ifli didn't dare to speak and hesitated. What the hell, don't waste time. Marine's voice was a little suppressed, obviously knowing it wasn't good news. One of the celestial dragons died, and the other 2 were kidnapped. Ifli gritted his teeth and said it directly. Stand where you are. Advance at full speed, target harbor, watch out for celestial dragons ships. After an order was given, the voice on the other end disappeared. Ifli took a breath and felt much more relaxed. Let Marine take care of the next troubles. I hope Admiral will come soon, otherwise the Marine branch will not be able to withstand it. On the sea, 8 warships were sailing rapidly. A long stretch of land can already be seen ahead. I saw the harbor, I hope it's not too late. The Marine commander of the G1 branch squinted his eyes and said thoughtfully. If you participate in this operation, you must go all out. He knew that he was no match for Yulo, so he waited until Admiral arrived and things turned around. Report sir, celestial dragon's ship discovered. At this moment, Marine's lookout hand waved and shouted. Target the celestial dragon's ship, surround him. Captain Marine's body trembled and he couldn't help but become nervous. The 8 warships adjusted their direction angles and sailed towards the celestial dragon's ship in a fan shape. On the celestial dragon's ship, Yulo stood on the bow, looking at the growing black spots. In fact, he had already sensed Marine's appearance. It's just a branch Marine, so there's no need to worry. Boss, take a look, there are 8 Marine warships. Ronnie stood nearby and saw the black spots. When I took out the telescope and took a look, I was shocked. Don't panic, this is nothing, Yulo said extremely calmly. How's Al? Then he asked again. The wound has been bandaged and he is resting in the cabin. Ronnie's eyes were full of admiration and he believed in Yulo's strength. After they got on the ship, they asked the ship's doctor to bandage Al's wound. The ship's doctor happened to know Yulo and told Ronnie and Al about Yulo's deeds. The 2 were filled with shock and felt that they had followed the right person. At this moment, 8 warships approached. Pirates ahead, listen, you have been surrounded, release the celestial dragons immediately and surrender. Marine's loudspeaker bug kept shouting this sentence. Because of the celestial dragons, they dare not attack directly. The Marine officer stared at young Yulo, always vigilant. Now he just hopes to hold Yulo back and hopes that the admiral from his headquarters will arrive soon. Are you from the Marine branch? Yulo looked at the Marine officer on the main ship and slashed with his black knife. His aura is only that of an ordinary vice admiral, and he should be from the marine branch of the New World. This made Yulo feel a little disappointed. He thought he could see the combat power of his admiral. Sword energy slashes were fired towards the main ship of the marine fleet. Damn. Ha. The marine officer's expression suddenly changed. He didn't expect Yulo to take action decisively. He immediately roared, burst out with all his strength, and charged forward angrily. The fist covered in armament color touched the sword energy slash. With all his strength, the sword attack dissipated and he flew back. A single sword has such power. No wonder Zephyr can suppress Garp. Captain Marine looked at the scars on his hands and was secretly shocked in his heart. It's so boring, shouldn't it be Admiral? Yulo, who had witnessed everything, couldn't help but curled his lips and muttered. I thought I had a chance to fight Admiral, but it turned out to be an ordinary Vice Admiral. The ability to withstand his sword energy slashes is not considered weak. But it's still not enough to watch, and Yulo is not interested at all. The only ones who can compete with him now are Admiral-level combat power. Ronnie watched everything that happened with adoring eyes. Treating Marine Admiral as his opponent is worthy of being his boss. The sharp sword energy slash made him hold the sword tightly, with infinite yearning in his heart. I'll clear the way. Sail at full speed and rush straight over. Yulo gave the order. The crew took action quickly, and the ship's speed gradually became faster. Sir, what should we do? They have accelerated and are rushing towards us. The Marine fleet directly discovered this situation and asked anxiously. They'd all heard of Yulo, so it wasn't surprising to have this reaction. All warships, aim at the target and fire cannonballs. As soon as the commander's military order was issued, the well-trained sailors immediately aimed at the target. Boom. 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 Countless cannonballs were fired, densely packed, and fell towards Yulo's ship. Ronnie was stunned, and the crew members were also trembling. This reminded Yulo of a scene in his memory, Fire Punch. Yulo jumped up and shouted, feeling faintly excited. The fire in Qinglian's heart ignited and surged out. The air became hot, setting off a heat wave. Boom. 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 The black cannonballs were swept by green fire and exploded one after another in the air. Violent impact airflow swept through the air. A big hole opened in the clouds in the sky. Yulo slowly landed back on the ship, facing the Marine fleet. Ronnie opened his mouth in shock. He had never seen such a scene before. Get ready. Give it to me again. How could the Marine commander on the opposite side give up so easily and plan to use cannonballs to waste away his energy? However, how could Yulo get what he wanted before he finished speaking? As Yulo thought, the green fire that had not dissipated flew in one direction against the sea. Wherever it passed, the sea surface burned, and green fire passed between the two warships and rushed into the distance. Yan Shanggang, get up. The green fire burning on the sea rose into the sky and turned into two giant curtains of flames. This is a flaming road on the sea that stretches for thousands of meters with no end in sight. Yulo's ship sailed among them, and at least this group of Marines could completely resist it. Full speed ahead, ha 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 ha. Yulo is quite satisfied. This Fire Fist plus Yan Shangjang must be worth 4.8 billion no matter what. 100 million less than 4.9 billion is not too much. Amazing. Ronnie shouted excitedly. The people on the 8 Marine warships were so shocked that they were speechless. Watching Yulo leave in style. Driving out of the encirclement. New world, somewhere in the sea. This Kong is real too. I'm about to retire. It's just a lot of trouble. On an Admiral-class warship, a man wearing a cloak of justice complained dissatisfiedly. This man is burly, but slightly old. He is the Admiral of Headquarters, Herman, known as the Earth Tiger, and he is also a great swordsman. He was already on the verge of retirement and was doing idle work all over the world. Because of the Rocks pirate incident, he was transferred back to Naval Headquarters. Now the safety of celestial dragons is in his hands again. All kinds of troubles made him want to retire immediately. However, Herman will still bear responsibilities and obligations in his position and position. He. The adjutant beside Herman could only smile. I'm afraid there are only 3 admirals who dare to complain about the Marshal and the Celestial Dragons. If it were him, he wouldn't even dare to speak. How far is it from the royal city of Godashang Kingdom? Herman asked. If something happened to Celestial Dragons if he went too late, it would be difficult. At that time, not only will he be scolded by Kong, but he will also be held accountable by the world government and Celestial Dragons. It's not too far away. We'll be there in another hour. The people from the G1 branch should have arrived. The adjutant thought for a while and said after a while. That's okay. Let them bear it first. If they can't bear it, they can delay it. Let's get there as soon as possible. Herman pinched his chin and said, which sounded reasonable. But he was very angry, so he wanted to see which one it was, and he had no time to trouble the celestial dragons. At this moment, a flash of cyan fire suddenly appeared on the sea in the distance. These are two giant curtains of flames that cover the sky and reflect the ground, extending out a path of flames on the sea. Even though they were very far apart, everyone in Marine could still feel the heat wave coming. The temperature of this flame is so high that it can burn on the sea. It can be felt even from such a distance. And it looks like it's coming from the Royal City Harbor. The sudden change immediately stunned the adjutant and he couldn't help but exclaimed. This flame, in the direction of the Royal City. Herman stared into the distance with a thoughtful look in his eyes. This is the first time I have seen this green flame, and I always feel that it seems familiar. Suddenly, Herman heard the adjutant's words, and some words and pictures flashed in his mind. Blue flame, super high temperature. No, it's him, Yulo from Rock's Pirate. Herman had an idea and his expression finally changed. Yulo of Rock's Pirate, in the harbor of the city of Gothard. He would never believe this was a coincidence. It seems that Yulo is the one who kidnapped the celestial dragons. The people in Rock's Pirate are all extremely vicious people. The celestial dragons are in danger if they fall into his hands. As Admiral's adjutant, he immediately reacted, his tone revealing anxiety. In his opinion, Yulo is not easy to deal with, at least he is outmatched by his strength. Even if Admiral takes down Yulo, it's hard to say whether celestial dragons will live or die. Follow me at full speed, I'll take the first step. Herman realized the seriousness of the matter. After giving instructions to the adjutant, he hurried over through the air. Adjust course, sail at full speed, and follow the Admiral. The adjutant commanded in an orderly manner, and the warship followed Herman who was getting farther and farther away. I didn't expect to fight in this way. Herman rushed forward quickly, looking forward to meeting Yulo. After returning to Naval headquarters, the three admirals held a meeting. Yulo of Rock's Pirate was highlighted at the conference. Yulo's battle video has been played many times. So Herman's memory of Yulo's abilities was fresh. Although he was used to being idle, it didn't mean he didn't want to fight. Herman was quite interested in this kind of person called a monster. With the assistance of Yan Xiangjung, Yulo's ship sailed out of the encirclement. Throw those warships out of sight. I thought this mission would be over. Yulo is going to arrange a training plan for Ronnie and Al. But who would have expected that a powerful aura struck like lightning and passed directly through his Yan Shangzuna? Yulo reacted quickly and rushed out. Clang. The two swords collided, the sword energy burst out at the same time, and the invisible sword intent swept across all directions. The two were evenly matched and were deadlocked in the air. Admiral suddenly appeared. Yulo said with a smile, looking at the man in front of him. He has seen all the photos of the three admirals in Naval headquarters. Coupled with such a powerful aura and combat power, it is undoubtedly Admiral Herman, the cutthroat. As a righteous Marine, I will arrest you myself. Herman rarely became serious, speaking in a righteous tone. At the same time, he sensed that Yulo's sword intention and sword energy were slightly stronger than his. While the fighting spirit surged, he was also secretly shocked. Monster Yulo's strength is indeed not weak. Blocked the sword easily. What I said is a bit loud, you should defeat me first before you talk. Yulo didn't take Herman's words to heart, because this is simply impossible. I'm afraid Marine's information is still stuck in the past. After an all-out battle with Golden Lion Shiki, Yulo's various abilities have improved a lot. Not to mention mastering the weapon color exposure and Conqueror's entanglement. With his current strength, not to mention defeating Admiral, at least he is invincible. Of course, the premise is that Admiral is as powerful as he imagined. Yulo buffered backwards and rushed higher, tiger hunting. The black knife in his hand was slashed out, and a huge black tiger roared out. With a strong sense of oppression, he pounced and bit Herman. Okay, Pirate Yulo, let me show you the strength of Marine Admiral. Herman became very interested when he saw Yulo's sword Black Tiger. He had never lost in the tiger competition. He is an esper in the form of zone, ancient species, cat fruit, and saber-toothed tiger. Most of the swordsmanship developed are related to tigers. Tiger teeth cut. Herman swung his sword and slashed out, the same tiger with sword energy, with long fangs on its mouth. It looked really fierce. The two giant tigers transformed from sword energy collided and exploded with a loud bang. The remaining sword energy shot out everywhere, and the billowing airwaves spread rapidly. Is this the strength of your Marine Admiral? Yulo showed a contemptuous smile and said very provocatively. At some point, Yulo developed this habit of provoking and taunting during battles. Even the Golden Lion Shiki said he was particularly annoying in battle. You and I both know that this is just the beginning. Herman doesn't care about that, he just wants to arrest Yulo. In this case, whether the celestial dragons are dead or alive, his contribution is enough to cover everything. In that case, let's fight quickly. Yulo didn't talk nonsense and planned to end the battle as soon as possible. Herman would not retreat easily and was determined to catch him. But in order to prevent Marine from having support, Yulo cannot fight for too long. Learn about Admiral's combat power and escape as soon as possible. Yulo's sword intent soared into the sky, erupting with terrifying sword power. Advanced armament Haki hardens and wins, making 1001 Nights even deeper and darker. Slash wave. A crescent-shaped black sword energy cut through the sky. In addition to the sharp sword energy, it also carries a huge impact. Wherever he passed, the surrounding space roared like a roar. This is a display of military strength. Does it mean that the strength has been improved? Herman narrowed his eyes slightly and murmured in shock. The black slash wave sword energy actually contains the aura of Haki. He has been mastering the weaponry and displaying it for many years, so it is impossible for him to perceive mistakes. However, the information I got from him seems to be a bit biased. At the Marine meeting, Zephyr himself said that Yulo's talent is pervert and his combat power is strong. However, armament Haki and observation Haki are somewhat different. Breaking through the sky is at the top of the intermediate level. Otherwise Zephyr would not be as simple as being suppressed. But who can tell him what is going on with this high-level armed color? He also mastered the advanced application skills of arming and displaying his colors. Herman put aside all distractions and concentrated on dealing with Yulo. Tiger teeth cut. This time, Hoyazon is even more powerful. It was also hardened and entangled by Herman's weapon color. Finally, the weapon was released, mixed with the sword energy and slashed away. Thousand Slice Valley. This is not over yet. Yulo sees Herman becoming serious. Continue the attack without hesitation, without giving Herman a chance to breathe. Dozens of Black Crescent sword energy are more powerful than Slash Wave. Followed by Slash Wave, it quickly attacks Hoyazon. Slash Wave and Tiger Fang Zon came into contact in the air and exploded instantly. Yulo's dozens of black sword energy flew towards Herman without any hindrance. Haha, you're showing off your weapons and colors, you're still a little short of that. Herman snorted coldly. As the Admiral of Headquarters, he did not panic at all in this situation. The armed color is exposed. The right arm's weapon color was covered and turned into jet black. He pushed forward suddenly, and an invisible impact burst out. Bang! Dozens of black sword energies were directly dispersed. The strong air current dispersed scattered sword energy in all directions. Admiral's strong men are indeed not simple, Yulo nodded and sighed. Herman's weaponry is outwardly visible, freely retractable, and subtle and changeable. In terms of actual combat application, it is better than him. After all, he only mastered the weaponry and color display a few days ago. Is this what you call a monster? Herman's momentum continued to rise. Unexpectedly, this Yulo actually mastered the ability to release his weapons. It is indeed as rumored and should not be underestimated. Your Marine's intelligence is too good. I defeated Golden Lion Shiki, don't you know? Yulo looked at Herman's expression and knew what was going on. Sure enough, it was exactly as he thought, Marine's news was still there. What a monster, Yulo, I must capture you today. Herman's pupils shrank and he made up his mind. He finally realized the huge threat Yulo posed. He actually surpassed the Golden Lion Shiki in a short time. If I miss this time, I'm afraid I won't have a chance. Catch him as soon as possible. It would be bad if he runs away. Herman's idea came to align with Yulo. That is to end the battle as soon as possible and achieve his goal. With such a terrifying talent, he will definitely surpass him soon. But now, there is still some gap, and this is a rare opportunity. Yulo, you can't run away this time. Herman began to exert his strength and decisively launched the razor. The figure disappeared instantly, and a white trail headed straight towards Yulo. He raised the long sword in his hand, armament Haki covering it. Herman's strength has already reached its peak. Swordsmanship, Haki, taijutsu, and even devil fruit. They were all trained to a terrifying level by him. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into a god of speed and was in the sky above Yulo. The long knife slashed straight down, falling from the sky like a broken bamboo. Just by rubbing the air, the sound of the sonic boom is deafening. In Yulo's perception, it was as if a ferocious beast was rushing toward him. But he also predicted Herman's attack. Armament Haki released all his strength, the black sword was filled with sword energy, and he directly blocked this move. He wanted to try out his swordsmanship and weaponry to see how far he had reached. Clang. The two swords collided, and sword energy shot out. The two of them broke into armed displays at the same time. Two invisible impacts collided. Boom! Yulo and Herman were ejected at the same time. Yulo's body fell and stopped when it almost touched the sea surface. The vast impact fell on the sea surface, causing it to dent, and the waves rolled in all directions. Herman was also knocked into the air, and finally managed to stabilize his body with the help of moonwalk. And the clouds in the sky were smashed into big holes by the impact. Admiral's combat power is really great. Yulo's body felt sore, and the pain caused by the impact was exposed. The whole body was shaken as if it was about to fall apart. This duel of moves allowed him to understand Admiral's strength. Not to mention the other two, at least this Earth Tiger Admiral, he already knew something about it. Herman's swordsmanship is not as good as Yulo's, and his weapon color is slightly stronger. Strictly speaking, it can be regarded as the top level among advanced students. That's not all. The most important thing is this Earth Tiger Admiral. He is famous for his devil fruit abilities, not taijutsu, swordsmanship or hockey. Therefore, Herman who activated the fruit ability must be stronger than he is now. Facing such a powerful Herman, Yulo did not feel the slightest fear. Don't forget that he is a man with great power. A sudden burst of super powerful moves, that's his trump card. My strength is more than that. Yulo, you're still a little green. Herman's face was ferocious, and there was anger in his voice. I thought I could at least suppress Yulo, but who knew they would be evenly matched. Herman's figure quickly disappeared into the air. The figure kept approaching, moving and flashing rapidly. Yulo held the black sword tightly, and observation hockey enveloped the entire audience. It seems to have the shadow of 6 styles. He could detect the location of Herman's aura. But Herman's movement trajectory could not be discovered. Suddenly a flash of sword light flashed, and Herman's attacks came like a storm. Clang! 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 Yulo activated the razor and began to move, waving the black knife in his hand continuously. Waves of clashing sounds of gold and silver echoed across the sea. The figures of the two people were no longer visible, and only 2 streams of light kept colliding in the air. Sharp sword energy was exuding everywhere, and countless swords and sword shadows were staged. It's such a fast speed, but the offensive power hasn't slowed down at all. The more Yulo fought, the more shocked he became. This attack speed made him feel troubled. Every active attack failed, and now he is completely passively resisting. In Herman's ferocious offensive, in addition to the 6-position power-generating skills, there is also the ferocity of a beast. This seems to be developed by Herman by merging the 6 styles and devil fruit abilities. This is not surprising, being able to become a Marine Admiral requires some talent. The meteor shower-like playstyle gave Yulo a faint tendency to lose ground. Clang! 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 Each of Herman's strikes was carried with heavy power and ultimate speed. This is not the way to go. Yulo released observation hockey and kept blocking with the black knife. After blocking continuously, use razor to dodge to relieve the pressure. Herman utilized the armament color exaggeration in ultimate. Every attack had a powerful impact. Before Yulo blocks, consume his defense. Looks like these alone won't be enough to take on the Admiral. After resisting for a while, Yulo understood. If you want to defeat Admiral, you need to show stronger strength. Qinglian Earth Heartfire. After blocking the blow, Yulo took advantage of the gap to tremble, and his whole body was ignited with green flames. Qinglian's inner fire was released, the surrounding temperature rose sharply, and a heat wave swept across. Logia's flame. Herman, who was moving rapidly, froze. Then the body began to rush forward, preparing to interrupt Yulo's moves. Unfortunately, it was still a step too late, just when it was advancing. The surging green flames burst out with Yulo as the center, spreading wildly around. In an instant, the heat engulfed Herman. Herman was in the heat, feeling like he was on fire. Immediately afterwards, the green fire surged over like a huge wave. Wherever it passes, the air evaporates and makes a sizzling sound. This terrifying temperature, Herman felt his heart palpitating through the use of sight, sound and color. His body retreated violently backward until he exited the blue sea of fire. The blue flame, the temperature is really terrifying. Herman, who retreated to a distance, looked at the raging green fire with some horror in his eyes. He looked at the figure standing in the sea of fire and muttered to himself. He knew this was Yulo's signature ability. At the Marine meeting, Garp, Zephyr, Sengoku, and Crane personally described the horror of the blue flames. Despite this, it was just a one-sided statement. I was just curious and surprised, but didn't take it to heart. When I passed through Yanshangzuna just now, I didn't feel such a high temperature. Can the temperature of the flame be controlled freely? I don't know if this is the upper limit. Herman's heart was filled with disbelief. Until now, I have personally experienced the temperature of green fire. Only then can we understand the feelings of Sengoku, Garp, Zephyr, Crane and others. This green flame is not invincible. Advanced armament Haki, when covering the whole body, can resist burning and move freely. But it won't last long under high temperatures. Rapid loss of water in the body will eventually lead to physical exhaustion. Unless absolutely necessary, it is best to avoid the edge temporarily. The blue sea of fire slowly dissipated, and Yulo's figure emerged. He looked at Herman in the distance and laughed. "Admiral, what's going on? Are you trying to arrest me?" Herman was furious and his face was extremely ugly. Ho! Roar! There was a roar, and Herman activated his fruit ability. The entire body swelled, sword-like fangs sprouted from its mouth, and it transformed into a half-man, half-tiger form. This is the human-animal form of Zone, the ancient species, the cat fruit, and the saber-toothed tiger form. After transforming into a human-animal form, Herman's strength, speed, resilience, etc. have been slightly improved. Still holding the long sword in the tiger's hand, armament Haki all exploded, and both the man and the sword were dyed black. Herman had to guard against Yulo's flames, and only the armed color could resist it. On Yulo's left hand, Qinglian's heartfire rose. Remote mages are so cool sometimes. Yulo looked at Herman's armor covered in color, and couldn't help but sigh when he thought of the scene where Qing'o forced him to retreat. Then the 5 fingers of his left hand bent, and a stream of cyan fire spurted out from Yulo's hand. The wrath of the flame dragon. It transformed into a huge green fire dragon, roaring up to the sky, lifelike. The dragon's tail swung and roared towards Herman in the distance. When Herman saw this, the tiger's claws trampled the air, and there was a roar in the void. The whole person was ejected like a cannonball. At the same time, Haki, covering his entire body, activates his weapon color. Directly collided with the cyan fire dragon. Boom. The fire dragon exploded, the sky filled with green fire, and the heat wave swallowed up Herman. Armed with armored bodyguards in the heat wave, Herman rushed out without losing speed. The long knife in his hand was ready to go, slashing at Yulo with a powerful impact. "I've been waiting for you." The corners of Yulo's mouth turned up, revealing a smile that showed success in conspiracy. The black sword is hardened and entangled, and it cannot defend itself against the incoming swords. Yulo held up 1001 Nights high, the blade of the sword showed its aura of armament, and slashed down as fast as lightning. Boom. Yulo and Herman's armed colors collided again. This time it didn't explode directly like before. Both are consistently pumping out armament Haki. For a time, the air current surged in the wind and waves rolled. Yulo's eyes flashed, and a burst of momentum broke out. Black air appeared and lingered around him. Face to face, Herman's pupils shrank sharply, and he secretly said something bad. "This is Conqueror's entanglement. Why can Yulo even know how to wrap around Conquerors? What does Marine's intelligence department do for food?" He suppressed the shock in his heart and decisively exploded with all his strength. Yulo and Herman were in a stalemate. Whoever broke through the defense first would definitely be injured. In this case, Herman can only output with all his strength. If he withdraws his attack rashly, all of Yulo's attacks will hit him. Until then, he will suffer. The Black Conqueror's Haki flows on the black knife. Boom. Yulo released Conquerors with all his strength, crushing Herman like a mountain. Conqueror's Haki between the two swords condensed a ball of energy. Gila. Gila. Black lightning exploded and blasted Herman away. This is the dual impact of Conqueror's entanglement and weapon color exposure. Although Herman was not injured, his breath was disturbed and he looked embarrassed. Yulo took this opportunity and rushed out in one go. The razor activated and turned into a black meteor, rushing straight towards the embarrassed Herman. Advanced Conqueror's Haki, wreaking havoc on the audience without any reservations. It swept across all directions in an instant, and everywhere was filled with black air currents. 1001 Nights was entangled by Conqueror's Haki, and his momentum reached its peak. G-Dragon Tiger Hunting. Yulo slashed twice in succession, and the Black Dragon and Black Tiger roared out. Launch a pincer attack on Herman from the left and right sides. As soon as Herman stabilized his figure, his expression suddenly changed. If you are hit by this move, you will definitely be hurt. This Yulo is either a human or a monster among monsters. At this point in the battle, Herman was beyond shocked. Countless grievances made him curse Yulo in his heart. This boy's strength is like a bottomless pit. Whenever Herman suddenly becomes stronger and is ready to take down Yulo, Yulo will still burst out with more terrifying power. It's really unlucky. It seems like it's hanging this time. Herman looked ugly. This was different from what he thought. In this move, the dragon tiger hunting sword energy slashes, the weapon color is released, and the conqueror's entanglement is a fusion of the three. Herman's experience brought him an unprecedented sense of crisis. He couldn't withstand the half-animal state, so he had to change into an animal form, which was also his strongest form. But judging from the current situation, even if it turns into a beast form, it can only suppress the current Yulo. Even if he wants to capture him, he still can't. In case Yulo still has a trump card, his combat power will skyrocket again. Herman didn't dare to think about it anymore. He couldn't tell the pain. Roar. The tiger roared across the sky, majestic and angry, and the sound shook the clouds. Herman's body continued to expand, completely turning into a saber-toothed tiger. The body is 10 meters long, with sword-like fangs exuding a violent aura. At this time, Herman's momentum was fierce and his strength was at its ultimate. He kicked his tiger legs hard and pounced on Yulo. The two huge and thick tiger claws are covered with dark armament haki. The tiger claws, which were already hard and sharp, even scratched the air. The two tiger claws swatted at the black dragon and black tiger. In an instant, the two energies collided, causing violent fluctuations. Boom. The black dragon and black tiger exploded simultaneously. Herman's huge tiger body flipped backwards under the impact, and then stabilized his figure. The speed of Yulo, who was like a stream of light, did not slow down, and he came to Herman at this time. Yulo held the black knife and slashed at Herman, and was about to hit the saber-toothed tiger's head the next moment. Herman's observation haki had already expected this. He suddenly raised the tiger's head and faced it with his fangs. At the same time, armament haki covered the fangs, and the tips of the teeth shone with a biting cold light. Clang. The black knife and the fangs collided, and a burst of golden swords sounded. The blow failed, and Yulo quickly retreated. Damn it, can you fight so hard? The dignified Admiral of Headquarters wants to use poison gas if he can't defeat him. In the distance, Yulo stopped, his face a little ugly, and he greeted Herman cordially in his heart. The taste in the tiger's mouth is so strong that it's hard to put it into words. Huh. What's going on? Herman was a little confused and thought Yulo was inexplicable. The fangs separated from him as soon as they touched him, and he retreated far away, with a very ugly expression on his face. Herman was confused. Was he that strong? At his strongest, he was confident of suppressing Yulo. But it's not that outrageous. Suddenly, Herman lowered his head and glanced at his fierce tiger body. Wait, could it be said that Yulo was frightened? How can I be brave? If Yulo could hear Herman's voice, he would definitely spit out blood. I have been unable to defeat him for such a long time, yet I still have the nerve to say that I am brave. Yulo's face slowly relaxed and he put the black knife back into its sheath. The good mood was ruined, and he planned to end the battle. When Herman saw this scene, he quickly suppressed his thoughts. The moment Yulo sheathed the sword, there was a flash of sword power, as if a sleeping beast had awakened. It disappeared in an instant, but he could not mistake it. Herman's body went cold and he couldn't help but become nervous. He actually had that terrible thought just now. If he hadn't stopped it in time, the consequences would have been disastrous. Yulo put his hand on the handle of the knife again, and the sword energy began to gather, and strands of green fire penetrated into the scabbard. The aura on his body began to change, seeming to exist and not exist, erratic. Under the momentum, the sleeping beast began to wake up gradually. With this momentum, does it have any killing moves? Herman's heart trembled, his eyes became solemn, and his muscles tensed subconsciously. The aura exuded by Yulo is not very powerful in terms of his perception of sight, hearing and color. On the contrary, it is somewhat obscure, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. It was this unknown thing that aroused Herman's caution. He suspected that this might be a stronger move, a killing move that had never been used before. Very good, then let me learn from you. At this time, the two looked at each other, and Herman understood what Yulo meant. By this time, he had seen the horrors of Yulo. Its combat power is not even close to that of Marine's intelligence. Herman knew very well that Yulo was out of reach. But test Yulo's true strength, also an important piece of information. Roar. He looked up to the sky and let out a roar, which seemed to pierce through the sky. Armament haki exploded with all his strength and transformed into a dark saber-toothed tiger. The entire tiger body exudes strong impact, which is the armament of Herman in his strongest state. Herman, in saber-toothed tiger form, uses all four limbs to launch the combined technique of moonwalk and shave. Razor. With a bang, the air exploded. Herman disappeared and turned into a huge black meteor heading straight towards Yulo. The terrifying power is like a meteorite falling from the sky, full of impact and oppression. The moment Herman rushed out, Yulo also made a move. The beast inside him truly awakened. A pure sword intent rose into the sky and directly pierced the clouds. The sword intent on Yulo's body continued to rise, and the sword power suddenly bloomed. His legs pressed down, the air beneath his feet exploded, and a muffled thunder flashed past. Yulo disappeared completely, and there was no trace of him in the sky. What? Herman's eyes were horrified. He disappeared so quickly. In the perception of sight, hearing, color, Yulo's breath is still there. Moreover, it has already arrived in front of him. Herman couldn't react at all. Boom. The invisible weapon color exposure and Conqueror's entanglement can directly break Herman's weapon color exposure. The entire huge body was hit and flew out uncontrollably. Herman, who was about to control his body, felt something locking him. In an instant, the fox fur exploded, and the chill shot straight to the sky. Roar. The faint roar of a dragon seemed to be there but not at all. Tianxiang Dragon Flash. The crisp sound of drawing a sword sounded. The secret of divine speed in sword drawing appears. A flash of cyan sword light flashed across Herman's abdomen. It directly broke through armament hockey and chopped on the flesh and blood of the body. There was a pop, blood spurted out, and Herman felt severe pain. This is sword light, how could it be? Herman quickly released his beastly form and returned to his half-animal form, relying on his flexibility to stabilize his body. He touched the sword marks on his abdomen and looked at Yulo with shock on his face. Yulo's figure emerged, appearing in the distance, with his back to Herman. The green fire on the black knife dispersed, and Yulo shook off the blood beads on the tip. Herman's shocked gaze did not make Yulo look back. Sorry, a real man never looks back. This kind of swordsmanship. Herman's eyes were fixed on Yulo, full of disbelief. He couldn't understand why Yulo's swordsmanship was so powerful. His swordsmanship is not as good as his fruit ability, but he is also one of the few great swordsmen on the sea. But compared with Yulo, it's completely inferior. Among the great swordsmen he knew, Yulo's swordsmanship was second only to rocks. In shock, Herman noticed that blood was constantly pouring from the wound. There is no way to continue like this, the injury must be recovered as soon as possible. Otherwise, if Yulo attacks again, he will definitely be beaten. As a zone user, Herman's various body functions have been strengthened. Even in half-animal form, the recovery power is much stronger than that of ordinary people. This is why he has retired at an advanced age. The reason why physical fitness has not declined much. Herman immediately began to heal the wound, but a scene that shocked him occurred. After the wound stopped bleeding, the effect was greatly reduced, as if there was something hindering it. Every time he encouraged the wound to heal, there was a burning pain. Damn it, it's blue flames. Herman's face was gloomy and he gritted his teeth in anger. Yulo's sword is attached with Qinglian Earth Core fire. He didn't expect that the green fire could hinder the healing of his wounds. He had been wary of the green flames for a long time, but he still got caught. Yulo turned his back to Herman, with a smile on his face. His observation hockey sensed Herman's aura fading. It seems that this move of Tianxiang Dragon Flash did a lot of damage. The burning effect of Qinglian's Earth Core fire also limited Herman's recovery in a short period of time. But Yulo was not relaxed either. There were beads of sweat on his forehead and his face became a little pale. This move, Tianxiang Dragon Flash, is the most powerful secret of the sword drawing technique. While the power is increased several times, it also consumes a huge amount of physical energy. If it weren't for the land tiger admiral he was facing, he wouldn't have been able to use this move. Even the previous golden lion Shiki only allowed Yulo to use the draw technique. At this time, the marine warship arrived and quickly approached here. 8 warships in the rear and 1 warship in the front. Ronnie, drive out at full speed, don't let marine surround you. Yulo shouted loudly, his voice a little weak. He got to see Admiral's fighting prowess as he wished. The top priority is to get out of here as soon as possible. Boss, the marine turret is already targeting us. Ronnie smiled bitterly, with anxiety in his voice. Yulo's voice was not quiet, and everyone on the 9 warships heard it. Immediately turn all the turrets and aim at Yulo's ship. As long as you give an order, countless shells will come. Just move forward at full speed, I will take care of this. Yulo's green lotus earth core fire was wrapped around the black knife and slashed out towards the sea. Shangzuna appears again. A sea fire road protected the hull and continued into the distance. Quick, rush out, as fast as possible. Ronnie was so surprised that he quickly ordered the crew to speed away. Yulo ignored Herman and prepared to return to the ship. Damn it, don't even think about running away. Ahis. When Herman saw this, he immediately wanted to catch up, but the pain stopped him. The wound didn't hurt his heart, but it was more painful than he imagined. As long as he touches the injured muscles, the burning sensation will begin. Even though he had experienced all kinds of pain, he also gasped from the torture. Mr. Admiral, please take care of yourself. Suddenly, Yulo turned around with a teasing tone, as if he was advising an old friend. Snort. Herman snorted coldly, his expression extremely ugly. Even if he wasn't injured, he might not be able to keep Yulo. What's more, with the loss of combat power now, Yulo will definitely not be able to be retained. He knew all this, but he couldn't bear to watch Yulo walk away. When he came, he vowed to capture Yulo. The result was this: the huge gap made him feel unbalanced. Yulo fell towards his boat. Secretly, he was wary of Herman behind him. Prevent him from launching a sudden attack regardless of his injuries. If that's the case, it gets tricky. Thinking of this, Yulo couldn't help but hold the black knife tightly. His current normal strength is the level of Admiral for the first time. A veteran Admiral like Dihu is still a bit better than him. Otherwise, he would have rushed in to finish the job. The reason why he was able to injure Herman was because of his super powerful swordsmanship. But this kind of swordsmanship killing move requires a lot of physical strength. He could not perform more than a few moves before he would be exhausted and paralyzed. Yulo won't use it unless absolutely necessary. Yulo is running away. Why doesn't Admiral chase after him? On the warship in the distance, the adjutant's expression changed and he felt very confused. But Yulo is about to rush into Inshangzuna. The adjutant gritted his teeth and couldn't wait any longer, showing a determined expression. Even if he is seriously injured, he must stay with Yulo. Otherwise, this operation would be considered a complete failure. He immediately covered his body with armament hockey. With a bang, it ejected and rushed forward fiercely. Don't be impulsive. While Herman was thinking, his expression suddenly changed. Suddenly, he found that his adjutant rushed towards Yulo and immediately screamed. This excitement and burning sensation appeared, and the blood that had been stopped flowed out again. Herman, who has been his adjutant for more than 10 years, naturally understands him very well. But Yulo's strength is not what the intelligence said. That's exactly what happened. Yulo responded extremely quickly. He tilted his body and slashed out with the black knife. The adjutant had just bounced off the warship and had not rushed far. He was hit by a sword energy that was wrapped in a weapon and released outward. Boom. The body flew back and hit the warship hard. The adjutant was covered in blood and looked at Yulo in horror. I wanted to say something, but no sound came out. So strong. The soldiers on the warship were stunned and couldn't believe this scene. The lieutenant is an elite vice admiral, second only to Zephyr in this division. With just one sword strike, he was cut back. Monster Yulo is so strong. Adjutant, how are you? Someone reacted quickly and hurriedly checked the adjutant's injury. Vulnerable. Yulo glanced at him with disdain in his eyes, then turned around and walked back to the ship through the curtain of fire. His physical strength was too much, and his combat power may have declined. But it's not something an adjutant can resist. Herman was relieved to see that the adjutant was still alive. He tried his best to control his injuries and returned to the warship. It's too much to bully others. Herman looked at the adjutant's injuries and became furious. The bones in my chest were all broken, and I wouldn't be able to recover within a month or two. Fire for me until it's over. Herman's deep voice sounded. 9 warships began bombarding Yulo's ship. He knew that this would not help, but it was such a relief. Naval headquarters has enough shells to blast Yulo hard. Herman was relieved and breathing heavily. The military doctor carried him and his adjutant into the medical bay. The Marine soldiers on the ship were shocked when they saw the injuries of Admiral and the adjutant. According to the situation, this mission failed. The Celestial Dragons were unable to save them, and Admiral and the adjutant were injured. The Marine soldier with a strong sense of justice felt resentful as he watched the enemy leave but was helpless. On the contrary, some timid soldiers had uneasy eyes. Boom. 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 Countless cannonballs hit the sky-high fire curtain and all exploded. The violent impact fluctuations were blocked by the fire curtain. On the sea road opened by Yan Shangjang, Yulo's ship moved forward smoothly. After a while, the Marine fleet behind them disappeared from the sea level. Hiss. Who? Only then did Yulo relax. He sheathed his sword, sat cross-legged on the deck, and concentrated on recovering his strength. Yulo didn't suffer any external injuries, but the majestic green fire and Tianxiang dragon flash were a bit overwhelming for his body. When Yulo closed his eyes and regained his strength, he discovered that he had mastered the display of armed colors in detail. It seems that in addition to system rewards, combat can also quickly improve your strength. After a long time, Yulo murmured to himself and slowly opened his eyes. He flexed his muscles and asked the crew to adjust the course to the direction of Beehive Island. He stood on the deck and looked into the distance, but his mind actually opened the system. Yulo looked at the reward for a devil fruit enhancement opportunity. After a moment of thought, he took out a devil fruit. This devil fruit is the one he took from the heavenly gold. The variety is stronger than the few in the treasury of Godashang Kingdom. System, start strengthening. Yulo had an idea and stared expectantly at the devil fruit in his hand. Ding. Devil fruit is being strengthened. The system's sound sounded, and a faint white light appeared on the surface of the devil fruit. Ding. Devil fruit strengthened successfully. It finally turned into a completely white devil fruit, and the patterns on it also looked majestic hockey. Congratulations to host. After system enhancement, Zone Normal Species Cat Fruit White Tiger Form has been strengthened into Zone Phantom Species Cat Fruit White Tiger Form. The system prompted the strengthening result, which surprised Yulo. From the example of Mera Mera Fruit being strengthened into Qinglian Earth Core Fire, Yulo had some guesses about Devil Fruit being strengthened. Ordinary flames can be strengthened into strange fires, and ordinary species can also be strengthened into fantasy beast species. At worst, they can also become ancient species. As expected, Yulo was not disappointed. In the true sense, the white tiger is one of the 4 spirits and 4 sacred beasts in the sky. It is the god of war and the god of killing. It represents gold in the 5 elements and is filled with the innate energy of gold. Ronnie, help Al out. Yulo didn't look back and shouted an order. The Phantom Beast White Tiger form is no worse than Kaido's Phantom Beast Blue Dragon form in the future. At this time, Ronnie supported Al and walked out of the cabin. Boss, are you looking for me? Al said, standing in front of Yulo with Ronnie. Do you two know who I am? Yulo looked at the 2 teenagers and suddenly asked in a deep voice. Yulo had no intention of revealing the devil fruit in the first place. Although it is said that the 2 of them have awakened Conqueror's Haki, it shows that their talents and qualifications are not weak. But this is far from enough. Without the determination to become stronger, no matter how good your qualifications are, it will be a waste. Boss, I know this. Your name is Yulo, and you are a cadre of Rock's pirate. I've heard from others that the monster pirate Yulo has a bounty of 1.5 billion and has robbed gold from the sky. In a few days, we will add the deeds of slaying the celestial dragons and repelling the Marine Admiral. Ronnie and Al were slightly stunned, not expecting Yulo to ask this, but they still answered honestly. Ronnie, who had witnessed the battle just now, was extremely excited and spoke the first sentence. Al, on the other hand, is more calm and adds some additions based on Ronnie. Now that you know my identity, you know that among the Rock's pirate, strength is paramount, and the bottom pirates compete to the death. When you kill those 2 celestial dragons with your own hands, you will be regarded as mortal enemies by the world government and naval headquarters, and will be hunted endlessly. You 2 are too weak to follow me all the time. So, if you are scared, you 2 can get off the boat at the next island. Yulo looked serious and said seriously. In fact, it can be regarded as scaring the 2 of them to see if they have the determination to become stronger. Boss, we are not afraid, we will not get off the ship. Boss, we don't want to be stepped on anymore, so we will work hard to become stronger. When Ronnie heard this, he hurriedly knelt down, his eyes full of desire and his tone unwavering. Even Al, whose leg was injured, knelt down with a plop and said without changing his expression. He clenched his fists, and when he said that he was stepping on them, there was even a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. The 2 of them have been struggling at the bottom of society for more than 10 years and have never met a strong person like Yulo. What's more, Yulo saved them, and he already recognized Yulo in his heart. This is the only chance to change their destiny, and Ronnie and Al will never let it go. As for the determination to become stronger, to put it bluntly, it means enduring hardship. The 2 have been wandering for more than 10 years, and they have suffered a lot. Okay, you were ambitious and you did not let me down. The corners of Yulo's mouth turned up, showing a satisfied smile. Ronnie and Al's decisiveness made him somewhat surprised. Even Al suddenly knelt down and the wound opened again, but his expression remained unchanged. Al, eat it. Yulo finally took out the devil fruit and stretched it out in front of Al. Between Ronnie and Al, Al's murderous aura is stronger, which may be related to his experience. The white tiger's killing momentum can only be achieved by Al having murderous intentions in his heart. This is devil fruit. Ronnie and Al stared at the white fruit. This was the first time they saw devil fruit, which they had heard about in rumors. Al saw only one and looked at Ronnie. He ate this devil fruit. What about Ronnie? Ronnie nodded heavily and motioned for Al to eat it quickly. He is not dissatisfied, his dream is to become a swordsman. So he didn't particularly care about devil fruit. Ronnie believed that Yulo had prepared a surprise for him. Click. Al took the fruit and took a big bite, finishing it in just a few bites. When Yulo saw this, he sighed. The system-enhanced fruits seemed to be particularly delicious. After taking the devil fruit, you feel a surge of energy that spreads throughout your body and blends together perfectly. Al, your leg injury is completely healed. At this time, Ronnie exclaimed, excitement revealed in his voice. He discovered that after Al ate the devil fruit, his wounds miraculously healed. Ronnie was genuinely happy about Al's improvement. Roar. A tiger roar shook the wind and clouds, as if coming from the 9 heavens, with a heavy sense of oppression. Al turned into a ball of white gas, exuding a sharp aura. Is it innate Zhangjin Qi? Yulo's eyelids twitched, feeling surprised. The phantom beast species, the white tiger form, is indeed very powerful. It is indeed the holy beast white tiger. Al had just taken the fruit, and the sharpness of his innate Zhangjin Qi was already comparable to that of the iron Zhante sword Qi. This innate advantage can be assisted by swordsmanship, but in the end, the ability of the phantom beast white tiger will prevail. Just like Whitebeard Newgate, although he is also a great swordsman, he mainly uses shock fruit. The innate Zhang metal energy flow transformed into a standing tiger man. It looks like a half animal, but it still maintains its gaseous state and seems unstable. Clang. Yulo stretched out his arms-covered fingers and flicked the tiger man hard. Yulo's power directly interrupted Al's unfamiliar control over the fruit's abilities. Ouch, it hurts. The innate Zhangjin Qi dissipated, and Al's body appeared. He rubbed his arms and said in pain. Boss, the holy beast white tiger is actually a species of phantom beast. It feels so powerful. Then, Al clenched his fists and said excitedly. After eating devil fruit, relevant basic information appeared in Al's mind. After understanding the classification of devil fruit, I realized the power of this fruit. Ha 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 ha, of course, I don't like ordinary things. Yulo was in a good mood and laughed. These words made Ronnie's eyes light up, and he looked forward to Yulo's arrangements for him even more. But Al, this is just the beginning. I've knocked you back to your original shape in one go. You have to keep exercising your body to better develop your fruit abilities. However, immediately after, Yulo changed the topic and seriously hit Al. At the same time, Yulo was surprised in his heart. Based on the strength and color of his fingers, he originally planned to pierce the innate Zhangjin Qi. Unexpectedly, this innate Zhangjin Qi was stronger than he thought, and it actually blocked the primary weapon color. The metallic innate Zhangjin Qi can be regarded as an alternative armament haki. Boss, don't worry, I will work hard to become stronger. Al suddenly felt a little ashamed, but immediately became determined. When he transformed into a tiger man, although he was not completely formed, he was filled with the innate Zhang metal energy, and the hardness made him feel difficult to be hurt by a sword. Who would have expected that Yulo could kill him in one go? It seems that the boss's strength is really unfathomable. Al looked at Yulo with admiration and thought silently in his heart. Ronnie, I see you have been holding this sword. Do you know how to use a sword? At this time, Yulo turned his head and looked aside, pointing at the broken knife in Ronnie's hand and asked. From the moment he met Ronnie until now, he has been carrying this broken knife. Boss, this knife is for self-defense, to protect Al and I. I only know some basic movements, not even moves. Ronnie couldn't help but get excited when he saw that it was his turn, but immediately, Yulo's words made him lower his head. Where did this knife come from? Yulo then asked. It was really that the knife was too broken and the blade was full of cracks. I picked up this knife. Ronnie answered honestly. I'll give you this sword, so you should practice your sword skills first. A sound of scandium. Yulo took out a brand new and exquisite sharp knife, which was the quasi-large sharp knife he obtained in the heavenly gold. Ronnie raised his head suddenly, his eyes shining. He excitedly took the sharp knife and played with it fondly. To Ronnie, this was the best quality knife he had ever seen. Suddenly, a shadow flashed across, and Yulo put his finger on Ronnie's forehead. System. Teach the complete solution to the Breath of Thunder. Ding. The complete explanation of Breath of Thunder has been taught. Yulo had consulted the system before, and the system said it could be taught directly. He didn't have time to teach Ronnie slowly, so the systematic direct teaching just satisfied Yulo's idea. The complete explanation of Breath of Thunder explains everything in detail, down to the last detail. In this way, Ronnie can practice alone without him spending time to guide him. If you really don't understand something, come and ask him for advice. The system is really becoming more and more user-friendly. Yulo retracted his finger and praised the system with satisfaction. Boss, thunder breathing technique? This is. Ronnie looked at Yulo in shock, and the method of training actually appeared in his mind. He was extremely surprised. In addition to the thunder breathing method, there was also a swordsmanship training method. Huh. Hiss. Huh. Hiss. Thinking of this, Ronnie unknowingly started breathing as he took in and out of breath. Zila. Zila. Ronnie's breathing was steady, there was a faint sizzling sound, and his whole body was flashing with blue arcs of electricity. Even though it is relatively weak, it still exists. This is the breathing method of thunder, which includes a unique breathing method and a swordsmanship training method. I will give you the accompanying analysis, and you should practice according to it. Yulo looked at Ronnie and explained. Yulo was not surprised by Ronnie's condition. The fully solved version of Breath of Thunder is an introduction that anyone can do. Yes, boss. Ronnie responded enthusiastically, looked at Al and smiled in unison. Afterwards, everything that needed to be done was done, and Yulo asked the two of them to familiarize themselves with their abilities. In this way, Yulo's ship sailed on the sea, because Yulo flew the Rock's pirate flag on the ship. Therefore, the pirates in New World did not rush to the muzzle of the gun. The sea voyage was boring for Yulo. However, for New World, it is anything but peaceful. Yulo from Rock's pirate encounters Marine Land Tiger Admiral Herman in New World. In a battle with him, he wounded Admiral Herman and left in style. I don't know who spread it, causing an uproar throughout New World. However, there was no news about Yulo killing the Celestial Dragons and abducting the Celestial Dragons, as if it didn't happen. Beehive Island. Rock's pirate. Rox held the newspaper and stayed alone in the conference hall. Ha 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 ha. Have you been able to suppress Admiral? This kid really gave me a surprise. I didn't expect to meet that old guy Herman. It seems Yulo's strength has improved. Rox slapped the newspaper on the table, stood up and laughed heartily. This thing is indeed a surprise, and it is an unexpected favorite. After Yulo boarded the Celestial Dragon's ship, he passed the phone bug to Rox. Told him about the mission and about bringing back 2 Celestial Dragons. At that time, Yulo had not yet encountered Admiral Herman, and after defeating Herman, he did not call Rox. Therefore, Rox only found out about this after reading the newspaper. According to Yulo's progress, my plan is not far off. Suddenly, the laughter stopped and the conference hall became somewhat silent. Rock's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his expression became ferocious. Now, Rox has regarded Yulo as its backbone. The talent and strength displayed by Yulo already have considerable influence. Before Yulo's bounty was released, many pirates came here and asked to join the Rock's pirate. Now, coupled with the incident of injuring Admiral, I wonder how many pirates will want to join. By that time, Rock's pirate's power will definitely reach a higher level. HMPH. 5 old guys. Do you think this can cover up the news of the death of Celestial Dragons? Thinking of this, Rox snorted coldly, and a gleam flashed in his eyes. The only people who have the ability to cover up the news of the death of Celestial Dragons are the 5 old men at the top of their power. Rox is very unhappy about this, if coupled with the news of killing Celestial Dragons. Pirates on the sea are bound to be more exciting. Rock's pirate can cause greater repercussions, and can also make Celestial Dragons and the world government lose face. However, it is very obvious that the 5 elders are not fools, and they used strong methods. Naval headquarters was disgraced and became a shield to cover up their incompetence and failure. Haha, such a cover-up will only result in an even more violent explosion. Rox smiled ferociously to himself, his eyes filled with excitement, and even his body began to tremble. When Rox saw the newspaper, everyone at Rock's pirate was excited. Master Yulo unexpectedly encountered Marine Earth Tiger Admiral Herman. The two had a great battle, and Master Yulo defeated Herman and left in style. Master Yulo is truly worthy of being a leader of our Rock's pirate. With such great strength, Master Yulo has made great progress. He is indeed a monster. Not long after Yulo defeated Shiki, the wave within the pirate group had not dissipated, and even more exciting news came. The pirates were immediately shocked, not to mention how shocking it was. They already recognized and even admired Yulo, but this news directly filled their hearts with awe of Yulo. That was the Land Tiger Admiral Herman, one of the strongest combat forces in naval headquarters. There were only a handful of people in the sea who could defeat him. Young Yulo is so pervert. He defeated Admiral not long after this. Golden Lion Shiki read the newspaper, smashed it in his mouth, and couldn't help laughing. Gu la la la. It seems that boy Yulo's strength has improved a lot, but I have long been used to this kind of thing. Whitebeard Newgate laughed, seemingly unresponsive, but deep down he was still a little shocked. This rate of progress is really pervert, just like treating cultivation like drinking water. Even if he explodes with all his strength now, he can only injure Admiral. Yulo boy has only been out for a short time, and his strength has already caught up with him. If Yulo goes one step further, he may surpass him and be second only to rocks. Comparing people with each other makes people angry. Alas, we can't compare, we can't compare. Shiki was shocked for a while, shook his head and said with emotion. Shiki, you have mastered the weapon color display, and you have made some progress in the battle with Yulo. You are now strong enough to compete with Admiral without losing. Newgate came to his senses and looked at Shiki thoughtfully. Shiki's strength has always been slightly inferior to him. Shiki won't gain anything from such a fight that releases his body and mind. He won't believe it. Jia ha ha ha, of course, I am Golden Lion Shiki. When Shiki heard this, he smiled proudly and forgot about Yulo in the blink of an eye. I don't want to compete with that pervert Yulo, but I can compete with you Newgate. We have both mastered the art of showing off our weapons, and now I am no worse than you. And if you touch the threshold of Conqueror's entanglement, it won't take long to surpass you, Jia ha ha ha. Shiki thought this, and his mood became beautiful, and he looked at Newgate provocatively. But what Shiki didn't know was that Newgate had already mastered Conqueror's entanglement. Newgate guessed what Shiki was thinking from the look in his eyes. He snorted in his heart, arrogant Shiki, that's all you can get. Ochaku and Kaido on the other side looked ugly after seeing the newspaper. They had just rekindled their fighting spirit, but Yulo's record of repelling Admiral was like a bucket of cold water being poured down on them. The two of them began to doubt life again, and their hearts were full of tears. Yulo, you monster, please leave a way to survive. World government, Marie Joyce. It looks peaceful but is actually a mess. Herman reported the news about the Celestial Dragons, and all the Celestial Dragons were furious when they learned about it. They don't care whether Marine Admiral lives are lives, and it is an unforgivable crime to dare to kill Celestial Dragons. What's more, it makes Celestial Dragons kneel down and beg for mercy, using Celestial Dragons as mounts. This is a provocation and insult to the world's nobility. Such a guy should be cut to pieces. The family where Algernon Sanctuary is located was also boycotted by a group of Celestial Dragons, who believed that they had insulted the majesty of Celestial Dragons and lost their qualifications as Celestial Dragons. Countless Celestial Dragons demanded that the 5 elders must kill Yulo, otherwise a Celestial Dragons family meeting would be jointly held. The 5 elders were under pressure and used strong measures to contain the negative news and preserve the dignity of the world government and Celestial Dragons. The 5 people then held a meeting with representatives of the various Celestial Dragons races, and the Celestial Dragons of all races gradually calmed down until they came up with a satisfactory response plan. After the meeting, a large number of members of CP1-CP9 quickly flocked to New World. Even the direct subordinate Celestial Dragons CP0 also took action. The other side. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Kong held an Admiral meeting, and Herman the Earth Tiger, Quincy the Flying Dragon, and Alot the Snow Leopard were all present. Herman was shirtless, with a thick bandage wrapped around his abdomen, and smiled honestly. Just now, 5 elders called, and Kong became even more angry. No way, what the 5 elders did, and those Celestial Dragons, were so infuriating. Suppress all negative news about them and put Marine's face in front of them. Even if Marine loses all face, he cannot offend the majesty of the Celestial Dragons. Is this using their majestic Marine as a shield? Herman, the 5 elders suppressed the killing of the Celestial Dragons. But the news that you were repulsed has spread throughout the sea. If you could catch Yulo, there wouldn't be so much trouble. Kong was so angry that he was about to lose his mind, and he hurled his anger at Herman. And what does Marine's intelligence department do? Monster Yulo doesn't even know that he defeated Golden Lion Shiki. Kong was almost furious when he thought about the intelligence service. Yulo is Marine's main focus, and combat strength intelligence is a top priority. Since the Battle of Heavenly Gold, Yulo's combat power is second only to admirals in the Marine file. Now it seems that it is more than that, but the combat power displayed by Yulo is only second to admiral. The actual combat power, once revealed this time, caught them off guard. The failure to update combat power information in a timely manner led to serious consequences this time. The gold in the sky was robbed before because of dereliction of duty, but I haven't had time to make up for it. Now Admiral was repelled by pirates again, the rescue of Celestial Dragons failed, and Celestial Dragons died. 5 elders can still suppress it if it's a matter of gold in the sky, but if Celestial Dragons loses their lives, 5 elders can't suppress it even if they want to. Marshal, it's my fault this time, I couldn't catch Yulo. But Yulo is really powerful. His swordsmanship is so powerful that it can break the color of the weapon and directly hurt the body. And the green flames can actually hinder the healing of the wound, and it still hurts a lot. I even doubt that this is not his full strength. When Herman recalled it, he was still frightened and said helplessly. He stood up and untied the bandage on his abdomen, revealing the hideous wound. Herman had just removed the burning sensation before the meeting, and now it is starting to heal, so the wound looks brand new. This. Yulo's method. Quincy and Ilot were stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but look sideways, their expressions a bit astonished. The two of them have worked with Herman for many years. As a zone ancient species saber-toothed tiger form user, both of them have seen Herman's vitality and resilience. Under normal circumstances, this kind of injury would have healed and scabbed a long time ago, but it has only begun to heal now. Does the green flame have such an effect? It can actually hinder the recovery of physical injuries. The Flying Dragon Admiral and the Snow Leopard Admiral looked at each other in tacit understanding, with a trace of solemnity flashing in their eyes. Kong looked surprised when he heard these words, but he was shocked in his heart. The magical power of the blue flame can be seen from the fact that the crane was stunned by the flame dragon. Kong also never underestimated the cyan flames of the monster Yulo. What really shocked him was Herman's last words. Still stronger. As Marine Marshal, no matter how shocked Kong was, his face was extremely gloomy and he was mumbling to himself. Herman's words were by no means based on speculation, and as a Marine Admiral, he would not speak lightly. Besides, that Yulo really brought them a series of surprises and shocks. First, he appeared out of nowhere, then suppressed Zephyr, showing a combat power inferior to Admiral, and now injured Herman, showing a combat power that could rival Admiral. Who knows if this Yulo still has something hidden, and it is not impossible that he will suddenly burst out with the power to crush Admiral next time. Well, with his thoughts at this point, Kong sighed, feeling a little irritated and having a bad premonition. Yulo's progress is astonishingly fast. It won't be his turn until next time. Marshal Kong, the call from 5 elders is to arrest Yulo? Herman knew that the call just now came from the 5 elders and made Kong so angry. He was a little curious about what was going on. Can we catch it? Don't forget, Marine is not facing one person, but the entire Rocks pirate. Of course, there will definitely be some action, but the specific 5 elders have not been determined. Kong's face was filled with anger, and he slammed his fist on the table. In order to maintain the majesty of the celestial dragons, the 5 elders used Marine as a shield. Now Marine wanted to fight back, but was directly rejected by the 5 elders, telling him not to act without authorization and to wait for orders from the world government. Kong felt that this marshal was really aggrieved, and he wished he could kill Yulo right now. But facing the entire Rocks pirate, he was not sure of victory. When he thought of this, Kong gritted his teeth in anger. Herman frowned. He couldn't understand why he didn't fight back immediately after such a bad incident. But I soon felt relieved. Even Marshal Kong had no control over the world government's decision. He couldn't get involved, so he simply didn't bother to take care of it. It's better to recover from your injuries as soon as possible and wait for orders to act. My injury is not serious and I will recover in the next few days. If there is any action, I will go with you. Herman became serious. He must participate in Yulo and Rocks pirates' actions. The failure of this rescue operation was inevitably related to him, so Herman would not let go of the opportunity to make up for his mistakes. You 3 will be on standby until the world government's order is issued. Monster Yulo's bounty has been increased to 2 billion. In addition, let Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr seize the time to train and quickly improve their strength. Any decision they make will be rejected by the 5 elders. At this point in the meeting, there is nothing left to say. Kong arranged everything and let the 3 admirals leave. Kong rubbed his eyebrows and kept sighing. What happened during this period made him feel mentally and physically exhausted. Originally, before Yulo appeared, the Rocks pirate had not conducted large-scale operations for a while. After he obtained the consent of the 5 elders, the tasks of the 3 admirals were idle, and the 4 most talented and powerful marines of this generation, Sengoku, Garp, Zephyr, and the resourceful Crane, took on the important task of fighting against the Rocks pirate. They face Rocks pirates' small-scale operations and get the job done every time. During this period, they frequently fought against the officers of Rocks pirate, which allowed them to greatly improve their strength in a short period of time. According to Kong's plan, if this continues for a period of time, the strength of Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr will definitely be able to break through Admiral, and the naval headquarters' combat power will be greatly increased by then. But who could have expected that Yulo would appear and join Rock's pirate, and they would take action on a large scale again? A direct blow to Marine. Sengoku, Zephyr, Garp, and Crane were all defeated for the first time, and even the gold in the sky was robbed. Kong's dream came to nothing, and the Rock's pirate became stronger and stronger. It was difficult for Sengoku and others to support it alone, so they had no choice but to recall the three admirals. Now it seems that the three admirals are a bit reluctant. Only Sengoku, Garp, and Zephyr have reached the admiral combat power, and Marine can beat Rock's pirate. Well, I hope this training will greatly improve the strength of the three of them. At the same time, Naval Headquarters is a secret training place. This Yulo is progressing so fast. Zephyr, who was shirtless, looked at the newspaper in his hand, his expression serious, and he said solemnly, "You have indeed become a lot stronger. Senior Herman even suffered a loss." Garp couldn't help but exclaimed as he held a large bag of donuts. When they fought before, Zephyr tried his best and was still suppressed. In his fight with Yulo, although there was no real competition, he could still feel the pressure. In just a short time, Admiral Herman was able to be injured head-on. They had experienced Herman's strength before, and his physical strength seemed to be endless during the battle. The three of them were severely suppressed from beginning to end. Although he was not defeated, it was difficult to fight head-on, but he was injured by Yulo. Garp, train seriously and stop talking nonsense. We can't lose to the pirates. Sengoku looked at Garp and shouted seriously.